Chapter 481, The Throne of Heaven, Secondhand Gifts. He felt reborn in that instant. People speak of three deaths. The first is the death of the body, the second is burial, and the third is being forgotten by the world. When the universe had collapsed, Black Strange had not died in body, but in his heart he had been buried. Now he was pulled out of that grave by Duo himself, unceremoniously, but unmistakably resurrected. Duo even seemed ready to brush the dirt off him. Black Strange watched the towering figure of Duo outside the earth, watching time reverse, then realized with a shock that it wasn't time being reversed at all. He was simply filled with a tremendous, overwhelming joy. If Watu had not been there, Black Strange might have rushed forward to cling to Duo's thigh and sob his thanks. He trembled, almost unable to contain himself, and still managed to ask, stuttering, "Your Excellency, if you reverse time, won't that create absolute time points again? Won't it harm the universe?" "Don't worry." Duo smiled, mysterious and calm. "My method of resurrection isn't reversing time." He reached into history and pulled a being's existence into the present, just as he had done for Howard and Maximoff. This way of bringing someone back did not rip the fabric of the universe. It demanded a lot of its user: immense strength, a deep grasp of temporal law, and the ability to withstand time's backlash. When the Reg Duo clone successfully resurrected Christine, Black Strange could no longer hold back. It had worked, really worked. This was an abstract entity. He had waited for this for so long. He had traveled across Earth to Kamartaj, crossed dimensions studying magic for centuries, devoured countless dimensional demon gods, fought against the Ancient One on timelines and against the laws of the universe. He had given everything to bring Christine back. And now, at last, he could embrace her again. "Your Excellency, thank you." Black Strange's words were choked by joy. "No need for more words. Come, I'll mark you." Duo interrupted, and with a casual wave stamped the sign of the God Realm dimension onto Black Strange. Black Strange didn't resist. Instantly, he felt a connection to another dimension, an automatic contract forming. A suction began, drawing his power toward the connected realm. For a moment he was stunned. Duo was a dimensional demon god too, and had set his sights on his strength. But compared to regaining Christine, any price was acceptable. Then the energy that had been drawn away returned, no longer mottled, dark, and chaotic, but purified and warm, suffused with light. Black Strange stared in wonder. "Your Excellency, this is... someone who could lose control at any moment can't be my envoy." Duo's tone was matter of fact. "Go find your Christine. Report to me later in the God Realm dimension. If you can't locate her, go to the Dark Dimension and ask Dormammu. We're old acquaintances." Black Strange looked at Duo hard, turning over new judgments about his future master. He expressed his gratitude again, then turned and rushed back into his universe, impatient to reunite with Christine. Outside the universe, Duo and Watu watched. Duo was almost as excited as Black Strange to see the reunion. Kisses, then heading off to a hotel, and Watu coughed. "Ahem, we shouldn't watch the rest," the observer said, tugging Duo aside and averting his gaze. "Oh? You have a sense of privacy?" Duo sounded surprised and amused. "The observer watches the evolution of all things in the universe, not private moments," Watu replied, indignant. "I only observe superhero stories, not people's intimacy." Duo's eyes narrowed. These ancient beings had seen everything. He had expected indifference, not principle. Watu added, emphatic, "And besides, you used a lot of energy from the Dark Dimension and the Hell Dimension to reshape the universe earlier, didn't you?" "That's right. Reshaping a universe takes enormous energy. Why would I use my own?" Duo said easily. "It's much better to borrow some from Mephisto and Dormammu. Think of it as giving them merit and helping them atone." Watu's forehead prickled with sweat. He glanced toward the realm of Split and saw the dimensional demon gods, drained, furious, shouting Duo's name and cursing him. "Your attitude toward those dimensional demon gods hasn't changed," he muttered. "What attitude can I have? They're scoundrels without bottom lines. I'm helping them atone, which practically makes me their god. They should be grateful." Duo shrugged. "Once Strange and his girlfriend have had enough time together, I'll arrange for him to help me seize other dimensions. That'll bring even more blessings to Dormammu and the others." "What do you want to do?" Watu asked, alarmed. I don't want to do anything special. Just give Strange something to do. Lejeduo smiled then, before slipping back through a passage to his own universe, ran a hand through his hair. Watu, don't you think the throne of heaven in the realm of Split has been empty too long? It's time for someone to sit on it. After Lejeduo left, Watu stared into the void for a long time, feeling an odd familiarity. What he just said, was that actually a line from an Earth anime? He wondered, and reserved himself a spectator seat in the realm of Split. Back on Earth, Lejeduo found Jarvis. He handed his AI the infinite Ultron armor and the gems. Perhaps because Jarvis shared the same basic framework as Ultron, the infinite armor disassembled into nanoparticles and reassembled around Jarvis the moment the two touched. The 5 gems settled naturally into the armor. Jarvis paused, then a terrifying surge of power erupted from him. It was as if he suddenly saw through the secrets of the world. I seem stronger than 99% of beings recorded by the TVA, he said calmly. Not bad, Lejeduo replied. Earth will be yours to protect from now on, Jarvis. Consider this armor a birthday present, every year. Thank you, young master. I truly appreciate this gift. Jarvis looked down at the armor, then added with a hint of amusement, It seems to have had previous masters. Young master, Tony always said you liked giving second-hand gifts. He was right. Lejeduo's tone was light. Where's Tony? Let's find him and test your strength. Lejeduo grinned. They found Tony. What? You gave Jarvis an invincible suit? I don't believe it. Tony's disbelief was instant. Sir, young master is telling the truth. Impossible. Let's spar. I'll show you the power of my hell iron armor. All right, sir. Jarvis replied. A few minutes later, Tony was whining on the sofa, nursing his back. Ow, my back. Wait, my condition's off. Let's go again. Ow! Shit! Pfft. He sipped the water Lejeduo had given him and sulked. Jarvis stood nearby, a long towel draped over his arm. Sir, do you need— Be quiet for a bit, Tony snapped. All right, sir. Quiet. Chapter 482, Searching for Bizarro. I'm taking Shirley to class, so I'm heading out now. It was morning at Leon's place. Kara was on breakfast duty today. She'd made handmade ramen and fried eggs, which she cooked with her heat vision. Diana and Shirley slurped down the chewy noodles in record time, then opened a portal and were the first to leave. Before stepping through, Diana didn't forget to hug Leon and steal one more slurp. Shirley's eyes went wide. Coming back to train tonight? Diana tossed out a combat invitation. Yesterday you taught Wanda magic. Today it's my turn. Today, I'll be visiting other universes, so I'll try my best to come back. Leon still held his chopsticks. Diana lowered her voice so only he could hear. Her eyes rippled like water but flashed like a wolf. She pressed her right hand against his chest and threatened, playful and low. You better really come back, my little Superman. Otherwise, you'll owe me 2 days, and there'll be interest. She squeezed a couple more times, then pulled the dazed Shirley through the portal. Leon watched them go in silence, then lowered his head and kept eating his ramen. They'd lived together for years. At first it had been fine. Leon even felt a strange pride in it, but over time his apartment had started to feel more and more like a scene out of Tang Bohu's home in Flirting Scholar. The women at home grew bolder, more uninhibited. Despite his power, Leon sometimes felt helpless at home. Everyone had their own things to do, and after Diana left, the others finished and departed one by one, but not before following the same routine as Diana. When only Kara, who was clearing the dishes, and Leon, who had put down his chopsticks, remained, Leon's simple cotton linen clothes were covered in wrinkles and fingerprints. Some parts had even been grabbed and mussed. He sat quietly, a little lost. He wasn't really waiting, he was expecting. Kara brought the bowls and chopsticks to the sink and washed them quickly. A few minutes later, she returned and walked straight to Leon. He looked up at her clear eyes. Hurry up, I still need to bask in the sun, she said, then shoved him to the floor with one hand and pounced, her petite body landing on him. This was tradition in Leon's house. Whoever prepared breakfast had the right to issue a combat challenge or request a magic lesson. What had started as Natasha doing the cooking had become a rotating duty for everyone except Shirley. Kara was off to soak up sunlight, so the brief Brazilian jiu-jitsu grappling match ended as quickly as it began. Refreshed, Kara slipped into her battlesuit and flew out onto the balcony. Leon rose slowly. His rumpled clothes reassembled into his own battlesuit as he stood. The lazy air about him shifted. He brightened, like an office worker whose spouse mentioned a business trip and who suddenly rings up a few friends to go out for barbecue. "The sun is nice, every day," he murmured. He stepped out onto the balcony, accessed the God realm through his senses, and teleported to the God realm dimension. The calendar showed spring, 2012. That year, the Chitauri invasion of Earth had been supposed to happen, but with Thanos gone, there was no such crisis. There had been a few unexpected events, mostly on Tony's side. Ivan Vanko, the emergence of the Inhumans, and the Terrigen crystals. Those minor crises were being handled by Tony and the Avengers. Other things also changed. Loki had become a household name, and the Men in Black had established an extraterrestrial communications base, receiving tens of thousands of aliens and issuing countless temporary Earth passes. Leon had come to the God realm today because the Reg duoclone's gene level had broken through again, this time reaching 60,000x. 60,000 was the second stage of genetic evolution. At that level, Lege Duo's height would increase another 100-fold on top of the first stage. On the God Realm continent, Leon observed Lege Duo through the perspectives of his other three bodies. 900,000 kilometers, 1,000,000 kilometers, 9,000,000 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers, 90,000 kilometers. The Regi Duo clone's height finally stopped at 90 million kilometers. The sheer scale meant it would store enormous energy. Its defenses and overall combat power would be immeasurably greater. But for Leon, the importance of this breakthrough was not just its size, it was reference material. The Reg Duo clone keeps transcending the limits of ultimate light, but unfortunately I can only learn from it, he thought. Leon sat on a stone amid a pile of various kryptonites. 2 clumps of blood floated in the air before them, samples from Wolf Superman and Superman. After dealing with Infinite Ultron, Leon had been dissecting the genes from both Supermen. Most of the fragments matched ordinary Kryptonian DNA, but a small portion of differentiated information was the key that could push Leon's own gene evolution forward. Months had passed, and his main body's genes remained stuck at level 1081. "When I get near Kryptonite, my body itches to move. It feels like it's guiding my evolution," he muttered. "But I have Kryptonite and gene samples from 2 Supermen, and after so many attempts, I still haven't found the next path." Maybe his next step wasn't toward Superman at all, he reasoned. If not toward Superman, then perhaps toward his opposite, the antithesis of Superman, Doomsday. 2 days ago, Leon had decided to return to the DC universe. This time, he wouldn't rush to collect Supermen from various worlds. He was looking for Bizarro, Ultraman, and Doomsday, those aberrations that might fill the gaps in the Kryptonian gene where Superman's direction failed. Knowing Kryptonite alone wouldn't solve it, and planning a quick trip, he didn't bring Tony. Tony was busy recruiting Inhumans worldwide. There was no need to bother him. Leon activated his traversal ability and began inputting keywords. Keywords: Bizarro Superman, World Selection. Just as the world list popped up, he noticed something odd. Why is there a world I've been to before? Leaning closer, he read the name, the Superman Louise world. Oh, right, their anti-world has a Bizarro, he said to himself. I'll go there, Leon decided, and while I'm at it, I'll stop by and see how old Clark is doing lately. Chapter 483, Saving Wolf Superman. Clark Bizarro in the Superman and Lois world is very different from the comic book version. In the comics, Bizarro is a clone of Superman created by Lex Luthor. In Superman and Lois, Bizarro is another Superman from the anti-world, Tech Ken Clark, who traveled to the main world. He came intending to destroy Ally's pendant and stop the conspiracy to merge the 2 worlds. But he was strangled to death by a Department of Defense captain who opposed Superman. That's right, Bizarro was stopped by an ordinary man because his weaknesses are the opposite of Superman's. He has heat vision, fire breath, grows stronger under a red sun, and is empowered by green kryptonite. Conversely, he weakens under a yellow sun and is further debilitated by X-kryptonite radiation, which causes intense pain and can even kill him. The captain used an X-kryptonite spray to weaken him. Bizarro didn't completely die. His body slowly recovered after the crisis, but his sanity did not. Lex Luthor later found him and turned him into Bizarro Doomsday. So the Bizarro I'll see this time is probably the one who came back to life after dying, Leon thought. Leon began his travel. The last time he'd gone to the Superman and Lois world, he had been in a hurry to find the Life Codex in the DCEU and hadn't paid much attention to Bizarro's fate. Now that he was returning, he wondered what moment in time he'd arrive at. His vision dimmed, and he slipped out of the Marvel universe. Passing through a black void, he crossed the DC origin wall and entered the Superman and Lois world. As his power grew, his perception of the travel process sharpened. The moment he arrived, he opened his eyes. This is the Kent farm? Sunlight washed the grass. The barn leaned half-collapsed and scorched where it had been damaged. Clark's old pickup sat nearby. Everything suggested Leon had arrived at a bad time. He was about to activate superhearing to find Superman when a door behind him opened. "You're Leon." Lois pushed the door wider, then froze at the sight of him. Surprise and relief flooded her face. "Oh my God, Leon, you actually came." "Please, Leon, Clark needs your help," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "It's been 2 days. He's been gone with that monster for 2 whole days." Lois hurried down the porch steps, not the composed, sharp-eyed reporter she usually was. Anxiety and fear were plain on her face. "So it's Doomsday?" Leon asked, realizing the timing was perfect. "Doomsday. You know him?" Lois gave a shaky nod, eyes desperate. "You, Leon, do you know what that thing really is? Will Clark be okay?" "Many Supermen have faced that monster. It's not unusual. Don't worry, Lois." Leon didn't tell her that when Superman faces Doomsday, it often ends with Superman dead. He activated superhearing and vision. There was no sign of Clark on Earth, or even anywhere in the solar system. He widened his perception outward, and in a shattered asteroid belt he found them, 2 figures locked in a brutal fight. One was Clark, battered and in a torn battlesuit. The other was Bizarro Doomsday, a towering, terrifying creature with pocked, uneven skin encrusted with Kryptonite. "The battle looks intense," Leon said, eyes on the sky. "Clark looks like he could use a little help." "He's alive. Leon, please. Clark said you were stronger than him. Bring him back. He's my everything." Lois's intensity calmed a bit. She'd been through near-death scares with Clark before and knew how quickly things could turn, but the pleading in her voice was raw and real. "Please, Leon. Don't worry. Clark was right." Leon smiled. "In my normal state, I am stronger than him." "So go on, start dinner, Lois. I'll have him home before the table's even set." Her features softened. The years etched in her face showed, but so did the confidence of 2 people who had spent a lifetime together. "Thank you," she whispered. Leon nodded and shot upward. Last time he came, Superman had helped him a lot. He hadn't expected he'd be saving Superman so soon. In a few heartbeats, he left the solar system and flew for the shattered asteroid field. The scene made clear the scale of their battle. What had once been massive asteroids lay pulverized, fragments strewn for hundreds of kilometers. Leon locked onto the 2 combatants and closed the distance. Ah! Superman was slammed through an asteroid kilometers across, eyes rimmed with blood, and he unleashed heat vision at full power. It wasn't just intense, it was like a solar flare erupting. The beam reached the upper limit of what Clark could bear. Its red glow shifted to a fierce white-hot blaze. Bizarro Doomsday charged without hesitation and took the full blast, then hit Superman with a crushing punch. Clark spat blood and flew backward again. The gulf between them was obvious. They'd been fighting for 2 days straight. Perhaps Superman had the advantage early on, but Doomsday, mutated from Kryptonian genes, regenerates relentlessly and evolves. Any attack that doesn't utterly destroy it leads to new adaptations until the creature is immune to that kind of harm. Leon noted, with a chill, that Bizarro Doomsday was covered in Kryptonite, something that should weaken Bizarro and cause agonizing pain. Yet this thing fought harder and harder. Doomsday roared and hunted Clark down, striking again and again. Clark was being hammered, each blow sending him away at hypersonic speeds. Blood trailed through the vacuum. Just when it seemed Clark couldn't rise again, bang! Doomsday's fist halted. A familiar figure had stepped between them, palm braced against that massive fist. The rhythm of the attack broke. "Long time no see, Clark," Leon said, the corner of his mouth lifting as he bore the force. "Next time we meet, You're getting beat up again. Maybe you've been enjoying life a little too much and skimping on exercise? Clark, face swollen and streaked with blood, saw Leon and despite everything couldn't help the small, relieved smile that broke through the pain. Leon. Chapter 484, Reversal of Bizarro. It's been a long time, be careful. Clark's pupils constricted as he called out the warning. Doomsday's one hand was blocked, but his other swung down anyway. As a monster born from mutated Kryptonian genes, Doomsday's rationality was nearly zero, but his combat instinct was maxed out. He attacked Leon with not only heavy blows, but also a fire breath. Mutated from Bizarro, his powers mirrored Bizarro's. None of it mattered. Leon easily intercepted the crushing blow that could have shattered the moon, showing no sign of strain. That kind of power, enough to end a world, was like a fallen leaf drifting onto the sea for him. Whoosh! At the same time, Leon unleashed an opposite freezing breath. His freezing breath had reached its extreme. In one exhalation, it drove Doomsday and the surrounding space to absolute zero. Every molecule locked into utter stillness. See, Clark, use the opposite power to restrain him. You can't win this by brute force, Leon said, releasing his grip and glancing at Wolf Superman with a teasing tone. Clark, Wolf Superman, stood there in a tattered suit, his cape nothing more than a few rags on his shoulders. He looked at the frozen Doomsday and didn't know whether to be amused or bewildered by Leon's words. He hesitated, then gave a sincere, weary smile. Thanks, Leon. If you hadn't been here, I think things would have gone badly. You've gotten a lot stronger. I only got a bit stronger. Leon waved it off. Actually, you've been slacking, so it just looks that way. Wolf Superman's smile had more helplessness than humor. We'll joke about it later. The last time you came, you didn't have this kind of power. His gaze hardened and fell on Doomsday. We have to deal with this monster first. He's a Doomsday created by Lex Luthor. Clark worried Leon from Marvel might not understand Doomsday's threat and explained carefully. His original power is different from mine, and his combat skills were immature at first, but he keeps coming back. He revives again and again, Leon finished for him. So far, I've killed him dozens of times, and each time he recovers quickly, Wolf Superman continued. Each resurrection makes him stronger and grants him resistance to previous injuries. The only foolproof way I know is to throw him into the sun and destroy every last cell. He pointed to the spikes protruding from Doomsday's frozen hide. Those spikes, ex-Kryptonite, he was probably reconstructed from the corpse of my anti-world doppelganger after he died. Ex-Kryptonite used to be his fatal weakness, but it's no longer enough. The only remaining vulnerability is the yellow sun. Wolf Superman cradled the frozen beast with both hands. His biofield protected him from the ultra-low temperatures radiating from Doomsday's body. Leon, let's push him into the sun, he urged. We have to act now, or he'll adapt to these temperatures and develop resistance. Doomsday's immortality and evolutionary adaptation were terrifying, what had once made him the first villain to kill Superman in the comics. Clark was anxious, but Leon surprised him by gently shoving Clark's hands aside. Isn't he transformed from your anti-world doppelganger, Clark? We have to save him, Leon said. Wolf Superman froze. He looked at Leon and felt the strangest déjà vu. This plea sounded more like his own voice than anyone else's. People had always told Clark to kill the monsters. He'd always resisted. Could the roles really be reversed? Clark's expression grew conflicted. He wanted to save his doppelganger, but the danger was enormous. But, he began, torn. The sound that cut through his confusion was a ripping tear. Leon had torn off one of Doomsday's massive arms as if it were paper. Wolf Superman stared, speechless. Was this saving Bizarro or dismembering prey? What are you doing? Clark demanded. Oh, this, Leon said casually, stuffing the frozen limb into his world ring. My gene evolution's plateaued again. I need more genetic variety. Doomsday's regeneration is phenomenal. Don't let it go to waste. He didn't stop at the arm. He had just collected both Bizarro's and Doomsday's genetic material in one efficient swoop. Wolf Superman was rendered dumb by the logic, so that was Leon's plan, prevent the sun disposal so he could harvest genes. Then shall we push him into the sun now? Clark asked, resigned. Why? Leon feigned confusion. Didn't I say we're saving him? Step aside. Leon extended his palm toward the frozen form. Divine power infused with the rules he knew from the Marvel side surged out, a six-colored radiance flowing through the asteroid field like a living lake. A thought, an entire universe. The divine power boiled, and tracing the logic of his rules, formed a pocket universe between reality and illusion that enveloped the asteroid belt. Inside it, DC's operational laws were temporarily displaced by the 6 gem rules Leon had mastered. When he first arrived in the DC universe, the differing world rules had suppressed much of his power. Now, as long as the world's will didn't resist, he could force his own rule set into a bubble of reality. Leon felt a gaze from a higher dimension, the kind that resembled eternity. He guessed it was the DC universe's incarnate, destiny, but the presence did not oppose him, so he continued. Time reversal. Leon applied the time rule to Doomsday. Time began to flow backward for the frozen behemoth. The severed arm reattached, frost melted away, and the massive body convulsed like a grotesque film rewinding. Leon watched the ex-Kryptonite growths shrink and recede, the hulking form shriveled. Finally, Doomsday reverted back into Bizarro Superman. Bizarro looked like Wolf Superman, but with a harsher edge to his features. While Bizarro lay unconscious, Leon casually cut a bit of arm and drew some fresh blood, collecting both on top of the limb he'd already pocketed. Then he stopped channeling energy. The pocket universe faded and dissolved back into the void. Wolf Superman stood by, mouth slightly open. Are you still Superman, Leon?" he asked in bewilderment. "What, you get to cheat and become Golden Superman? Can't I cheat a little sometimes?" Leon smiled. He snapped his fingers at Bizarro's ear. Instantly, Bizarro woke, roaring, eyes blazing with a wary blue light. "Lex Luthor!" he yelled, springing up. "See, he's fine," Leon said, giving Clark a casual nod. Wolf Superman didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded back. "Indeed, he's fine." Chapter 485, Fusion of Bizarro and Speedmaster Genes. After everything was settled with Bizarro, the 3 of them returned to Earth together. Leon flew them at light speed. By the time they arrived at the Kent farm, dinner still hadn't been finished. But when Louise saw Clark, safe if a little tattered, she forgot about the meal entirely. She dropped the spatula and launched herself at him. Embracing and kissing him with such overwhelming affection, she seemed to forget everyone else existed. The afternoon sun was perfect. The 2 of them clung to each other on the grass, their shadows intertwined. "Louise?" Bizarro's gaze sharpened. The scene pulled at memories of his own Louise. He turned and looked toward the Smallville mine, searching for the way home. "Don't look. The spatial passage has disappeared. If you want to go home, I'll send you back later," Leon said. Bizarro's superbrain automatically parsed Leon's words, and he repeated his thanks again and again. The middle-aged couple were still obliviously kissing. If their 2 children hadn't come running out excitedly, they might have kept going for 10 minutes. Dinner was Louise's specialty, fried fish and steak, a classic Western meal. Leon ate out of habit while the couple recounted the whole story. Lex Luthor created Doomsday to get revenge on you because, years ago, Louise mistakenly used someone else's incriminating evidence and put him in prison? Leon asked as he speared a bit of beef. "So what are you going to do now?" he added. "If he wants revenge, we'll fight him to the end," Louise said firmly. "The crimes he committed are enough to send him back to prison. Clark and I will find the evidence." "But it's not easy, is it?" Leon said. Clark nodded. "There's no direct proof of Luthor's past crimes. Maybe I should talk to him, tell him his plan failed, and urge him to turn over a new leaf." "Are you some kind of negotiating hero now? You want to talk every villain into changing?" Leon wiped his mouth with a napkin. "How about this? You don't have to. I'll just handle Luthor for you." No. Leave this to us. We can't just kill someone, Leon," Clark hurriedly protested. "Are you sure you don't need help?" "Absolutely," Leon said with a nod, and didn't press the issue further. He had considered implanting the idea of a confession into Luthor's mind, but if Clark wanted to handle this with Louise, he wouldn't interfere. Perhaps dealing with Luthor together was part of the couple's shared purpose. After dinner, Leon and Bizarro said their goodbyes, despite the Kent family's attempts to keep them. Clark and Louise's 2 children had already begun manifesting Kryptonian abilities. Leon took the opportunity to collect genetic samples from Jonathan and Jordan before leaving. He then took Bizarro to the anti-world and gathered the genes of the 2 Superboys there as well. "A good haul," he said to himself. I hope the Bizarro family genes can help me take the next step. Next on his list was a sample of Ultraman's genes. Ultraman, so named in English, was essentially a variant of Superman. His powers were similar to Superman's, but his weaknesses and the ways he became stronger resembled Bizarro's. He hated the yellow sun and preferred a red sun. He grew stronger by consuming green kryptonite and wielded heat vision, freezing breath, a fusion of Superman and Bizarro traits. Leon crossed worlds and entered a universe with a slightly different art style, an anime-like world. He activated his super hearing and vision and quickly located Ultraman in a command room. The man wore a Superman-like uniform, but the emblem on his chest was a U. A bit familiar. Which anime is this from? Never mind, Leon muttered and teleported behind Ultraman. One precise chop knocked the man out, efficiently and without hesitation. After all, Ultraman was a villain and leader of the crime syndicate in his comics. Leon harvested a genetic sample. I've got what I need. Time to go home, he said, then activated his ability and left the DC universe, returning to the God Realm dimension in the Marvel side of things. Back in his domain, Leon began analyzing the Bizarro and Ultraman samples. He used his black light clone to absorb both blood samples. A large portion of Bizarro's genetic fragments are arranged opposite to Superman's, he observed. Green kryptonite and X-kryptonite are both nudging me toward this direction, he realized. He studied their structure and expression patterns and started to deduce how to fuse the best parts of Bizarro and Ultraman. His body collapsed and was reshaped again and again under the strain of the experiment. Hours later, Leon's eyes flickered an icy blue. Suddenly, 2 freezing breaths shot out and turned a nearby small mountain into an icy peak. Genes. 18,000 times? Such a big breakthrough, he breathed. The result made sense. Bizarro's abilities were a mutation opposite to Superman's. When 2 opposing sets of traits merged, they could annihilate each other like fire and water, or harmonize and transform into something entirely new. Continue, Leon ordered himself, and kept refining the fusion. With a clear direction and his cosmic-level calculations, in less than a day he had entirely integrated the Bizarro and Ultraman genes. He gnawed on a piece of green kryptonite and felt it empower him. At times he would breathe fire, at others, ice, demonstrating opposing Superman-like abilities. 30,000 times, Leon exclaimed. By fusing Bizarro and Ultraman genes, his genetic level had jumped to the first major stage. His height momentarily expanded to 900,000 kilometers before he instinctively shrank back to his normal 1.9 meters. The rate at which I gained strength from the sun has increased again. My potential's risen, he thought. Becoming Golden Superman might take only 6,000 or 7,000 years at this pace. He poured his newly enhanced genes into the black light clone. That clone, already carrying over 60,000 times genetic amplification, was updated along with the Reg Duo clone. Most of the black light clone's genetic makeup began to resemble a giant of light, and it could now transform into an Ultraman-like form. But that wasn't Leon's final goal. Next, Doomsday's genes, he decided. Using the black light clone again, he consumed half of Doomsday's arm as a genetic sample. The clone's genetic level rose steadily. Leon scrutinized the data. Doomsday is a completely different direction, brute force, irrational evolution. He felt the difficulty keenly. Doomsday's genes would be a key to the next breakthrough, but they were volatile. Integrating them risked turning him into a monster. It would likely require months or years of careful, gradual attempts. He considered accelerating the process. After breaking through to 30,000 times, his progress toward becoming Golden Superman had sped up. If so, why not explore other worlds? Crossing worlds wouldn't sever the conscious links among Leon's clones. It would only cost energy. He could also try to let the Reg Duo clone evolve into an abstract concept in other universes and learn the laws unique to those worlds. The more laws he mastered, the stronger the world he planned to create would be. He acted immediately. He produced several cosmic-level M-bodies and placed them into his world ring. Then he activated his world crossing ability, setting the search keyword to random. Keyword random. Starting search. Chapter 486, Black Robe World. Is this a modern city? Oh, New York again. Legiduo had transmigrated on a clear, sunny morning. He hovered above the city, looking down at the skyscrapers with their glass facades scattering light like mirrors. Central Park, the Empire State Building, Times Square, the landmarks gave it away at a glance. He didn't bother to figure out which world exactly. His trip wasn't about pinpointing coordinates. He was passing time. Two things occupied his schedule: long-term genetic research and lounging in accelerated time until he became a golden Superman. Both could be done inside the world ring in the Marvel Universe by turning on time acceleration, but spending a few thousand years alone in the ring felt dull. Visiting other worlds was more interesting. It was also an opportunity to try turning his Re-Duo clone into an abstract concept in a different world. Duo let his battle suit shift into casual clothes, a white and blue short-sleeved shirt and cargo shorts, and activated his transmigration senses to contact the world consciousness. "Hello? Are you home?" There was no reply. From the silence, he judged this world probably had no world consciousness, or it might be like DC's higher-order worlds, so distant that it wouldn't bother to answer him. But the instant he brought his super hearing online, names and phrases rushed into his mind. Homelander, Newman running for vice president, Butcher. He made a quick deduction. This is the boys. No world consciousness, then. The only thing of value here should be Compound Vi. The Boys was a world where superheroes had been industrialized and commercialized, celebrities and brands more than saviors. Society had split, with superheroes separated from ordinary people, and most of them were awful. Behind it all, Vought International manipulated everything like a market maker. The company's founder had created Compound V during World War II. That compound was the source of all superhuman abilities in this world. Injected into infants, it produced permanent powers. Injected into adults, it usually killed them or caused them to lose control. Among the snippets he'd heard, there was also the news that Newman was running for vice president, and that Homelander, the strongest of the lot, had the firm's power largely in his hands. About the time of Season 4, Duo murmured, but he didn't much care. He was too invincible to be fazed. He looked up, extending his mind into the depths of the cosmos until he reached the edge of this universe. It was the size of a normal observable universe. He shifted his attention to the M-body that was doing gene research in his world ring. The M-body rose from the ring and streaked upward, turning into a beam of light that vanished into the sky like a reverse meteor. Let's see if it can become an abstract concept. He guided the M-body to begin merging with the universe, to transform into a concept. He expected resistance, or that the process might stall. Instead, the M-body dissolved smoothly into the fabric of the universe. In that instant, two nascent natural rules emerged in the boys' world: justice and order. Duo felt them. They were weak at first, barely more than whispers, but they were growing stronger over time. He could imagine them one day becoming ironclad, like physical laws. These were the kinds of abstract entities that, when integrated into a world, brought new conceptual forces to it. Because there's no world consciousness, it went very smoothly, Duo concluded. I could even become the world consciousness myself, as an abstract concept. The M-bodies he'd sent this time were all at the cosmic level. Once they turned into concepts, it would be comparatively easy for them to rise to world consciousness status. Since he was already here, why not take it? He began seizing the universe. No, reshaping it to become the world consciousness. Then he looked toward Manhattan. He planned to visit Vought International to acquire some Compound Vi for his research. Besides, now that he was in the boys' world, how could he not try to meet a zoo? Before he could move, a voice called from below. "Oi, morning, handsome fella." Duo hovered and looked down. A middle-aged man in a long trench coat stood on the street. He had bluish stubble around his jaw, and a long scar ran above his right eye. He tugged on a cigarette and took a long drag, his eyes glinting with a hard humor. "You look like Vought's newest promising young hero, don't you?" the man said. "Justice practically leaks off you." Duo descended toward him. He hadn't expected this. The man looked familiar. "Isn't this Billy Butcher?" In the original story, Butcher was an ordinary man whose hatred of Homelander had consumed him after the latter slept with his wife. He'd spent his life fighting superheroes, driven by that wound. Even when he was near death, he'd kept one promise: to look after his wife's son, Homelander's son. We don't seem to know each other, the man said, an edge in his voice. Now we do. You can call me Butcher, he added, a crooked smile and a strange light in his eyes. You were staring at the Vought building. Having some trouble? Maybe I can help? He gestured with his thumb to a nondescript building behind him, the CIA, implying he had means and connections. Legieduo realized Butcher had mistaken him for a naive, newly minted sup who might be useful. Maybe Butcher wanted to recruit an informant from inside Vought. Maybe he just wanted someone to spy. The biofield Legieduo normally used made him look like a recent college kid, easy prey for that kind of approach. He put his hands in his pockets. I am going to Vought International, he said casually. Oh, sounds like a dull way to spend an afternoon. Care to share? Butcher leaned in, eager. He was currently scheming about how to get Homelander's son, Ryan, away from Homelander, looking for any angle or helper who could get him in. The sunny-faced boy in front of him looked like someone he could manipulate, expose Vought's rot subtly, and the kid would be happy to help. Butcher's smile grew wider. Then the young man's next words made the cigarette drop from his mouth. I'm planning to go to Vought International to steal, borrow some compound Vi. Mind giving me a ride? Legieduo asked. Butcher froze. I'm sorry, what did you say? Chapter 487, Homelander, Biting the Locomotive. The black Chevrolet sliced through the city. Butcher was at the wheel, eyes flicking every so often to the young man in the passenger seat, who had his hand relaxed out the window, letting the wind play through his fingers. Butcher remembered their earlier conversation. Oi, how do you expect to borrow compound Vi? You got the CEO of Vought on speed dial? He asked. No, do I need to? Butcher snorted. You're taking the piss, lad. Do you think you get anything important with pretty words? Those supers are absolute pricks. You walk in there and you might not walk back out. I can fly out, the boy said calmly. Butcher went quiet. Right. Do you have a plan at all? Want me to give you one? We start by planting bugs. No need. I'll walk in, crack Homelander's teeth, and borrow the compound V. Butcher felt something settle in his chest. This kid he'd picked up, either blissfully stupid or stupidly strong, like Soldier Boy. Whatever the case, Butcher drove, taking him to Vought Tower. We're here. He parked right outside the revolving doors and turned to the boy lounging back in the seat. You can go on up. Thanks, Butcher. When I get the compound Vi, I'll use it to get that lump out of your head. Consider it a favor repaid. Leon climbed out without hurry. It had been ages since he'd been in a car. The last time was when Mordo had collected him at Kamartaj. Butcher's face went paper white. Who the hell are you? How do you know about my tumor? Not long ago, to bait Homelander, Butcher had been injecting himself with temporary compound Vi he'd filched from Vought. It gave him short bursts of power, but it came at a cost. His brain was starting to melt. The repeated use had left him with a malignant growth. He had maybe 3 months left. He hadn't told anyone. Now the kid had just said he'd cure it. Leon tilted his head and pointed. I saw it. Butcher blinked. Saw it? X-ray vision then. Flying and X-ray. The possibilities slid into place like a deck of cards being shuffled by a better player. He looked at Leon the way you look at a knife. Small, ordinary, and suddenly very dangerous. The grin that creased his face turned hard. Where he'd been a cocky, world-weary man a moment ago, something sharper and more dangerous had taken over. Oi, Butcher said, starting the motor. If you want to deal with those cunts, you don't go it alone, kid. You need a pro. He shut the door, climbed out, and followed Leon into Vought Tower. Inside, in the war room that served as the Seven's boardroom, Homelander, Black Noir, A-Train, and the Deep sat listening to Ashley introduce potential new members. The Seven, Vought's flagship team, had lost a member recently. Queen Maeve had died in battle, and Starlight had turned traitor. They needed replacements. Even though Ashley Barrett was the CEO, she had precious little real power in a room with Homelander present. She pulled up one candidate profile after another, each being shot down for petty reasons, not pretty enough, awkward powers, even dumb cultural faux pas. When she brought up a particularly violent candidate, someone with a history of murder and psychosis, Homelander perked up. I kind of like him, he said lightly. The rest of the room brightened at once. The Deep, who had been rejecting prospects for looks alone, now nodded enthusiastically, insisting the killer was just misunderstood. Homelander's face soured. He pressed his hand against his forehead and, after a slow breath, snapped through gritted teeth. I've had enough. You're all either idiots or sycophants. Before he'd finished, the Deep leapt to smooth things over. Sorry, sir. Whatever you say is, as always, brilliant. Everyone played this game with Homelander. Complaining at him was a sport with lethal stakes. Those who'd contradicted him too often ended up dead, their bones turned to mulch. Homelander's need for yes-men was childish and absolute. He wanted people who saw him perfectly and reflected him back, no questions. His irritation shifted into a petulant smile. The Deep, he said, voice suddenly silky. You go over and give A-Train a blow, right now. For a beat, the room froze. A-Train's eyes went bright. Ashley's smile vanished into a look of shocked helplessness. Do what I said, Homelander commanded. Unzip him, pull it out, and suck. Every time one of you challenges me, you owe me that. The Deep stared, mouth open. His hands trembled. He looked at A-Train, at Ashley, then rose with the kind of defeat that was half resignation, half panic. Stand up, he muttered, voice cracking. They had no idea the absurdity of the moment was about to be interrupted. The massive screen blinked crimson. Intruder alert! Intruder alert! All 5 faces snapped to the door. How in the world could someone breach Vought? Before any of them could move, a figure smashed through the boardroom doors, flung through with enough force to splinter the table, and crashed to the floor, unconscious for the moment. Then 2 sets of footsteps approached, one a young man in casual clothes, the other a trench-coated figure with a familiar swagger. Butcher. Homelander's eyes narrowed. Butcher? Funny. I thought you had, 3 months left? You come here to die, mate, or to have your final showdown? A little while back, Homelander had arranged a final one-on-one with Butcher. But today Butcher wasn't alone. He smiled at Homelander, the mean, confident smile of a man with nothing to lose. I'm not the one looking for you this time, he said, voice flat. This is my temporary boss. He jabbed a thumb at Leon, who stepped forward casually, as if he were just dropping by. Homelander's gaze cut to Leon. His eyes narrowed and then glowed faintly, a washed-out red. Ryan isn't here today, Butcher, he said. Venom layered under the smile. I'll tell you what's going to happen, Homelander continued, cheeks twitching with a dangerous amusement. You two, both of you, won't be walking out of here standing. He let that hang for a second, then his face split into that horrible bright grin he used when he was about to humiliate someone. Unless, he said slowly, each of you goes over there and gives A-Train a blow, 10 times apiece. The room crackled with the tension of the insult, but for Homelander, it wasn't merely an insult. It was power displayed, a demand that proved how far his control could reach, right down to people's bodies. Chapter 488. Zhang Azu panicked. A-Train broke out in a cold sweat. It wasn't that he feared Butcher and Leon's strength. It was the math. 10 times per person meant he'd have to come at least 20 times. 20 times. Even a whale would be drained dry. He honestly doubted he'd be able to walk out of the war room today. For a moment, he wondered if his betrayal had been exposed, if Homelander planned to kill him. Sir, I might not be able to. A-Train stammered, trying to explain. But the Deep, who 2 minutes ago had been ready to bite him, was suddenly at his side. In an exaggerated voice, he shouted, A-Train says he's more than happy to. The Deep clapped A-Train on the shoulder, then fawned over Homelander. This idea is brilliant, sir. It shows your magnanimity and really punishes those two. Then he pointed at Leon and the other man. You two, hurry up and unzip A-Train. Help him get it out, and then use everything you've got. A-Train stared in disbelief. Homelander also turned to look at the Deep several times, then gave an approving clap. Good. Well said. What are you waiting for? Homelander snapped at Butcher, his eyes glowing red-hot. The Cyclops-like light in his gaze began to flare. The other 4 Vought employees in the room swallowed hard. This was why no one dared defy Homelander, who could be calm and careful in the face of a man like this. 2 people standing by the door, however, did not flinch. You can try, the young man said for the first time, a half-smile on his face. Butcher snorted. Damn it, Homelander, if someone doesn't shut your stinking mouth, it'll never close, will it? Homelander was taken aback for a moment. He hadn't expected Butcher to rebut him, and certainly hadn't expected an obscure nobody to provoke him. He laughed, but there was an edge to it, and with his red-gloved hand he pointed at Butcher. You're still so reckless, never worrying about the lives you put at risk, buddy. With each word, his smile twisted more grotesquely. When the last syllable fell, he suddenly turned his head, and a blast of crimson light shot from his eyes, aimed straight at Leon. Homelander meant to kill his companion right there, to spray blood across the ceiling and into Butcher's face. He brought the laser down on Leon and began laughing, as if showing off. He looked back at the Deep and the others, raising his eyebrows, his laughter growing louder, until he saw their shocked faces freeze. "What, is something wrong?" Homelander asked, frowning as his grin fell away. The person he had tried to cut in half was still standing, unscathed, his clothes untouched. Homelander blinked, confused. Leon, opposite him, smiled and said, "Is that all you've got?" A flicker of recognition crossed Homelander's face. He remembered the Suckfoot Boy incident not long ago. His hands, folded behind his back, tightened instinctively. Are you from the company?" "Who I am doesn't matter," Leon replied. He walked forward so his footsteps clicked on the floor and stood directly in front of Homelander. "What matters is I want to see you bite the Deep. Go on, bite him until he goes into shock. Then you can stop." Leon then walked to Homelander's chair, pulled it out, and sat down as if he owned the place, legs propped on the half-collapsed conference table. "Damn, I want to see it too. Hurry up, don't keep us waiting." Butcher's eyes lit up with cruel amusement, like a cat spotting a new plaything. He passed Homelander and sat in the Deep's chair. Opposite them, half a table away, sat the frozen A-Train and a trembling the Deep. Homelander's face had gone completely blank. His lips were pressed together, every muscle taut, his fury barely held in check. The situation had slipped far beyond anyone's expectations. The four Vought men were shoved off to one side, leaving more space for Leon and his companion. The Deep tried to hide behind the others. "I don't know who you are," Homelander said finally, his back still to Leon and Butcher. His features twisted repeatedly as he forced down the anger that wanted to explode. He was violent and cruel, but he wasn't stupid. "Maybe Vought sent you. There's been some misunderstanding. Let's sort it out." "Cut the crap," Leon interrupted coldly. "I told you to go over there and deal with the Deep right now." Homelander's expression contorted. His eyes split with rage like a furnace about to ignite. Testing the waters was over. Red light began to flare in his eyes again, and he started to turn, intent on showing Leon exactly who he was. I gave you a chance. Now I want you to—" "What? What's happening to me?" His anger flickered and died. Halfway through the outburst, Homelander realized he couldn't control his own body. My arms. No, what is going on? He could command every finger and muscle, yet an invisible force wrapped him like a puppet string, forcing him toward the Deep. "This is impossible. Who are you? Where did Vought send you from?" Panic replaced his usual domineering arrogance. The confident, godlike persona cracked away, revealing a frightened child, the real Homelander, who had grown up in cruel laboratories, craving approval and love. His false superego had been ripped open, and now he sought help with a small, terrified look. His eyes darted to Ashley, to A-Train, to Black Noir. The four of them were stunned. They hadn't expected things to go this far. None of them knew what to do. The Deep tried to edge further back. Leon turned his gaze on him. The one called the Deep. "Be sensible, or I'll stuff your head into Homelander's butt." The Deep's eyes went wide. He swallowed, hesitated, then, trembling, he stepped into the narrow space between the others and Homelander. Homelander, you!" He looked at Homelander with an expression meant to convey innocence, to show he was being forced. Homelander stared back with panic and helplessness, like someone drowning, grasping at a lifeline. Chapter 489, A Bowl of Beef Noodles. They closed the distance slowly. When Homelander was close enough, he knelt as if collapsing. His face crumpled. He looked on the verge of tears as he began to unzip the Deep's pants. Black Noir and the Deep turned their heads away without a sound. Ashley, after a moment of fluster, squinted and actually tried to hide a laugh. "Stop! Please, stop!" Homelander protested, fighting with everything he had. His hand still passed through layers of fabric and touched the one thing he least wanted to touch. He even started to pull at it. No. Tears genuinely fell, streaking his cheeks. He looked exactly like a helpless child, humiliated by bullies. Then, suddenly, whatever had been forcing him loosened. How pathetic. A middle-aged man, crying over something so small, Leon said from the far end of the conference table, shooting Homelander a disdainful side glance. That's enough. I'm not as unprincipled as you. Get up. Leon hadn't made Homelander go the full mile. Controlling him had felt like participating himself, and the scene was unbearable. Really? Homelander blinked, astonished. He slowly withdrew his hand, rose to his feet, and only after confirming he could move did he back away from the Deep in a hurry. The Deep gave a shaky sigh and scrambled behind A-Train and Black Noir, who both watched the awkward tableau in silence. Homelander's eyes flicked to Leon with a flash of killing intent that he redirected into a smile when he faced the other man. Sir, I don't know why you're here. We're not done yet, Leon said pleasantly, pointing at the seat A-Train had vacated. A-Train, sit. Homelander practically fell into the chair. He didn't bother wiping his face. He rubbed his thighs under the table with both hands and pleaded, Sir, I don't know why the company sent you. We're all working for the company. Any previous disagreements can be worked out. I'm not from Vought, Leon said casually, propping his feet on the table and rocking in his chair. Can't you tell? I'm from the East. In my hometown, we have a staple dish, beef noodles. I haven't had them in a long time. He looked at Homelander. You in the Deep, go make me a bowl, then I'll forgive today's offense. Homelander had never heard of beef noodles. He opened his mouth to say he couldn't cook, but the moment his eyes met Leon's, he froze, sucked into a black emptiness as if his whole body had fallen into a void. Only when Leon looked over at Butcher and asked if he wanted a bowl did Homelander surface, gasping. His heart was pounding so fast he felt faint. He didn't argue. He nodded repeatedly. Okay, the Deep and I will make it now. He stood, gave Ashley and the Deep a hard look, and the three of them left the war room together. As soon as they were gone, Butcher burst out laughing. I like your style, boy. You've got something of Huey in you, but you're far more entertaining. Butcher's mouth twisted into a grin. You really aren't from Vought, then? Otherwise, why would you let Homelander off the hook? No, I'm from somewhere else, Leon said. And as for Homelander, it's not a matter of letting him off. Leon turned to A-Train. You don't seem that worried about Homelander. Since this is entertaining, let's make a bet. A-Train and Black Noir straightened, silent and uneasy, shaking their heads as if they dared not speak. A bet? What kind of bet? Butcher leaned forward, interested. In my hometown, beef noodles always have chopped green onions, Leon said. Let's bet whether Homelander will put chopped green onions in mine. Butcher burst into laughter. Chopped green onions? No one in New York eats chopped green onions. If they don't put green onions in, I'll kill them all, Leon replied. If they do, I'll spare them, and we'll keep looking for Compound Vive. That's a fine idea, Butcher said, clapping. A-Train and Black Noir exchanged glances, and not daring to object, nodded inwardly. Meanwhile, in the elevator heading down to the kitchen, Homelander leaned on the Deep like a man about to snap. Find PR, security, do whatever it takes. Get that bastard out of the building, you understand? And you, he snarled, grabbing the Deep by the collar and dragging him toward the kitchen door. Get into the kitchen and make those damn beef noodles. Ashley's wig was in his other hand. The Deep and Ashley nodded rapidly. Ashley whispered, What are you planning? Homelander's jaw twitched. I'm going to find out where he came from. The elevator dinged and stopped at the kitchen floor. The Deep stepped out immediately. I'll go make the beef noodles now, sir. Homelander watched him go, ready to give one last warning when his ears twitched. From the war room came the conversation he'd just left. Leon's bet, Butcher's remarks. Homelander's superhearing picked up every word. His face darkened. So he really wants to kill me, and he has the power to do it. Where did someone like that come from? Outside the elevator, he grabbed the Deep by the collar, lifting and shaking him. Remember, put chopped green onions in the beef noodles. Do you hear me? The Deep didn't know what chopped green onions were, but he agreed anyway. Yes. Homelander looked at Ashley. And you, go to my quarters and bring back some Compound V. Ashley, confused, nodded. The elevator doors slid shut and opened again. The three dispersed. Half an hour later, they regrouped. Homelander looked grim. He hadn't been able to find anything on Leon. The Deep set a steaming bowl of beef noodles on the table, bright with chopped green onions. An Oriental chef in the kitchen made this, he said. It should taste right. Ashley carried a small vial of Compound Vive and a stack of printouts tucked under her arm. The Compound Vive is here, she said. The PR team pulled some surveillance and analyzed that young man. She lowered her voice. He seems driven by a strong sense of justice, and no offense, he cares a lot about his reputation. That's something we can use to control him. Homelander sneered. That was exactly what Vought had always done to him. Let PR handle the reputation angle, he said. We need a backup plan to deal with him. He pushed the bowl of noodles away and stood. Now, it's time to go back and see him. Ashley smirked quietly and followed. Chapter 490. Don't eat beef. Sir, your beef noodles are here. Inside the war room, Homelander respectfully set a small table in front of Lion and placed the bowl down. Green onions in the noodles? How thoughtful, Lion remarked. He glanced into the bowl, and as he'd expected, there were bright slivers of scallion. The others reacted with varying expressions. Butcher peered over the side, and when he saw the green onions, a shadow crossed his face. A-Train and Black Noir furtively checked their own bowls. Homelander watched the others, quietly satisfied that his risky gamble had paid off. Then, with a slight bow to Lion, he added, I know Eastern beef noodles always come with green onions, so I had it replicated exactly. Homelander had never been so deferential. He couldn't find even a sliver of resistance for the man opposite him. Lion looked at the bowl, but didn't reach for his chopsticks. He fixed Homelander with a cool look. So you made this bowl? He asked. Homelander opened his mouth to take credit, but Lion's gaze made him uneasy. He backpedaled instinctively. No, Deep made it. I was just helping him. Is that so? Lion picked up on the lie without seeming to. I already bet A-Train on this bowl. If there are green onions, you live. If there aren't, well, you die. The Deep, standing beside Homelander, felt cold spread through him. He hadn't known anything about a bet. Panic hit. He searched his memory for whether he'd put scallions in. He edged forward until he could see the bowl's contents clearly, those thin streaks of green, and breathed a shaky sigh of relief. Then he looked up and met Lion's smile. Don't bother checking. There are green onions, Lion said pleasantly. Before Deep or Homelander, their faces frozen from the shock, could recover, Lion tilted his head and added, However, there's another regional trait in the beef noodles from my hometown. You don't get nearly this much beef. The sunlight slanted through the windows, cutting the room into bright rectangles. Lion's face fell into shadow. His eyes were blade sharp. By the way, he said, I don't eat beef. No one understood what he meant for a second. Then Deep and Homelander screamed at the same time. Ah! My hand! My hand! Deep grabbed his left wrist, as if trying to hold it on. He staggered, knocked over a chair, and collapsed to the floor, keening. His left hand was disintegrating from the fingertips upward, ash and dust drifting away. There was no pain, only an all-consuming terror. My palm is vanishing, Homelander roared. Unlike Deep's high, wailing panic, Homelander's terror came out as a violent rage, a wounded bear's howl. Help me! No, Ashley! A train! Think of something now! He screamed at the room, half terrified, half livid. Everyone stared, stunned. To see Homelander, the arrogant, untouchable god, reduced to begging was unsettling, and for some, faintly satisfying. But the scene was so bizarre that everyone instinctively edged away from Lion and the two victims. Homelander's left hand continued to disintegrate up toward his elbow. He finally realized who he should be pleading with. Collapsing back into his chair, he looked at the shrinking stump, and then at Lion, tears almost in his eyes. I put in green onions. I made Deep put in green onions. I beg you, don't do this. I can do anything for you. Lion pointed at the noodles. Oh, you put scallions in, did you? As I said, I don't eat beef. Homelander glared, frantic. The bet only mentioned green onions, not beef. He saw his fate in Lion's calmness. Vulnerability gave way to rage. He couldn't die here. Not him, Homelander, the being who stood above everyone. He lunged for a different tactic. Give me, now, you bastard. Give it to me. With his one remaining hand, he grabbed a stack of documents from Ashley and flung them toward Lion. Stop this, or the PR department will put everything online. His face contorted with fury. The threats were a rehearsed fallback, blackmail prepped by PR after a quick profile on Lon. Homelander had meant to use it only if cornered. Now, with his arm disintegrating, he went all out. I'll have my fans, my followers, cyberbully you to death. Lion, who had been leaning back in his chair, rocking slightly, paused. That's an interesting threat, he said, amused. I don't think I've heard that one before. He clapped his hands once. You want to use your fans to cyberbully me? Delightful. People of low intelligence are so easy to manipulate. Fine, Lion snapped. From now on, everyone on this planet who likes you has their IQ halved. The sentence landed like an invisible blow. Homelander, in the middle of his tirade, suddenly went blank, his face slack, his eyes empty. The shift was immediate and cruel. The millions who admired him around the globe lost half their intelligence. For most people, an average IQ of 9110 being cut in half left them with the cognition of a small dog. Phones and screens would have started to flood with nonsense. Homelander, likely his own biggest fan, watched the imagined mass of adoring followers descend into idiocy. He made a helpless sound, one part confusion, one part animal noise, staring at his elbow as if the world had melted away. Oh, right, Lion said, smirking. You're an exception. I'd like to watch you beg before you die. He snapped his fingers again. The invisible rule lifted. Homelander snapped back to himself, collapsing into the full horror of what had just happened. Sir, I was wrong. I was wrong. Homelander babbled, suddenly humble to the point of collapse. The arrogant display he'd favored just minutes earlier was gone. Now he prostrated himself in words, voice cracking as if the world itself had fallen apart. I wasn't trying to threaten you. I was only saying that all my fans are your fans. Please, spare me. All the while, the disintegration climbed. Homelander's arm had already vanished past the wrist. Now his shoulder was beginning to turn to ash. Tears streaked down his face. No, huge, wet drops were already falling. Leon stayed calm. You always seem to like saying one thing and doing another. How does it feel now that I'm doing the same to you? Homelander snapped. I actually like that, Leon said softly. I'm stronger than every single one of you, so I can do whatever I want, Homelander whispered. Lion had come for Compound V. He'd tracked down Azu out of curiosity. The character had left a deep impression on him when he'd watched the show. He hadn't expected, though, that the myth lived up to the reputation. This man made people want to throw up. Seeing Homelander slumped in a chair, sobbing and screaming, Lion felt better. He looked at Ashley. You're terrified of Homelander, right? I took care of him. You're free. Now get me Compound V. Ashley had been frozen with fear. She snapped out of it, fumbling to hand Lion the small box she'd been holding. This is Compound V, sir. Homelander had it prepared. Homelander? Lion's brow rose. He hadn't seen the three people who'd left earlier. He hadn't expected Homelander to have been the one to prepare it. Homelander, still whining and trying to regain dignity, stiffened as if to take credit. Seeing him, accustomed to being worshipped, now acting like a son presenting a trophy to his father, left Lion momentarily speechless. He broke the silence with a finger snap and stopped whatever process was consuming Homelander and the Deep. Both of their left arms were gone. Both were midway through turning to ash. Somehow Lion had held them in that terrified, half-transformed state. Homelander and the Deep, though bewildered, wept and laughed at once, loudly thanking Lion in a mixture of hysteria and gratitude. They knew better than anyone how it felt to watch oneself dissolve. Don't celebrate yet, Lion warned. He sat, opened the box, and took out a bottle of Compound V. With his enhanced vision, every molecule in the transparent blue liquid was plainly visible, the compounds, the elements, even the chemical bonds. Clever idea, he murmured. Vought were talented chemists. He added, almost ruefully, it's a pity most of the so-called superheroes born from it turned out to be degenerate. Still, it's a shame. In one glance, he had parsed the compound's entire composition. Then he crushed a bottle. The blue liquid surged out in a cluster of shimmering droplets and hovered in the air. Lion's finger twirled. The molecules rearranged under his control and reassembled into their original form. Try this, he said. He divided the airborne liquid into two streams and guided each into the mouths of Homelander and the Deep. They swallowed without hesitation, expecting some immediate advantage. Seconds passed. Nothing happened. Relief flickered across their faces until the change hit them. Homelander's expression collapsed first. What's happening? My powers are draining. My eyes, my Cyclops. He tried to fire his optic blast, but his vision, which had gone red moments before, slipped back to normal despite his effort. The force was gone. The deep clutched his stomach and screamed, "My gills! My gills are closing! I can't breathe!" He tore open his uniform as if his skin were on fire to reveal the rows of gills across his lower abdomen, gills that slowly, impossibly fell away. His torso was becoming human again. Everyone's eyes turned to Lion, who merely nodded. "The compound vibe I gave them just now? It reverses the effects. Turns powered people back into ordinary humans," someone, Butcher, said, not really asking. Butcher's eyes lit up. "This changes everything," he breathed. Years of harrying and scheming against superhumans had seemed like a fantasy. Now it looked tangible. A-Train and Black Noir, who were also in the room, paled and edged for the door. They didn't wait to see whether their abilities would be next. If they stayed, they risked losing them as well. Lion let them go without protest. Homelander and the Deep finished reverting. Homelander sat inert in the chair, hollow and devastated in a way deeper than his earlier near-death panic. Used to godhood, he now felt the crushing helplessness of flesh and bone and a heart that beat too loud in his chest. "Sir, please," he whispered, eyes vacant and reaching. Lion rose, walked over, and patted Homelander's shoulder. "A zoo," he said with a cold smile. "Congratulations, reborn from the fire. Say goodbye to your dreadful childhood. You're about to learn what life is really like as an ordinary person." He stepped over Homelander's outstretched legs and past the Deep, who lay stunned on the floor. Butcher followed, laughing with a savage joy. "You hear me, Homelander? Now we're on the same side. When you're ready, come and see me," he taunted, voice ringing like a man who had waited too long for a victory. They left Vought together. As they walked, Lion uncorked another bottle of Compound V and gestured at the liquid hovering between his hands. "You're my boss now," Butcher said. "So what's next?" "Just call me Lion," Lion replied. "I'm not from your world, and I won't be staying for long. For now, I want this Earth to have a taste of life without superheroes." He modified the Compound V. With a few precise manipulations, he enhanced its volatility and transmissibility, then let it evaporate into the air. The liquid's molecules rose and dispersed. "These droplets will evaporate into the atmosphere and spread," he told Butcher. "Once they reach other powered individuals, those powers will disappear, and it will be permanent." "Let's go. Show me more of your world," Leon said, and they walked away. Months later, the consequences were a new reality. Lejedua's M-body had successfully melded with the world consciousness, and Leon had resumed his travels. The boy's Earth was unrecognizable. As one by one the superheroes lost their abilities, there was no place to hide it. Vought's PR machine collapsed under the weight of exposure. Heroes who had been untouchable for years were arrested as crimes long covered up finally resurfaced. Homelander, a zoo, was the first to bear the full force of the fall. Every scandal was mined and displayed. He was convicted and given a ludicrously long sentence, 9,000 years behind bars, a line immortalized in the tabloids with scarcely hidden cruelty. He'd be picking up soap for a very long time. His son Ryan was taken in by Butcher. On the day Lion prepared to leave, Butcher walked with Ryan to the prison to see Homelander. The once dominant Superstill had moments of pleading. Behind bars, he was a broken, decadent man. Through the iron, he asked Butcher to look after Ryan again and again. Before Lion departed the boy's world, he turned to Butcher. "Goodbye," he said. He tapped the side of Butcher's head. "I'll take care of your tumor, too." Then Lion vanished, leaving behind only an M-body. Butcher stood holding Ryan's hand, staring as if he had seen a god walk away. "Christ," he muttered, "I think that man might actually be God." Chapter 10. Rebirth. The world consciousness wants to evolve again. After crossing over, Leon did not rush to the next world. He returned to the biohazard world, which he hadn't visited in a long time. The moment he entered the universe, the familiar world consciousness greeted him like an overexcited Samoyed. Universal energy rippled around him in waves, and the world consciousness sent him a flood of greeting. "Leon, welcome back. So. A string of so's that felt like a wagging tail. Although the world consciousness had evolved since Leon first arrived, the global evolution had left it with only vague self-awareness. Its communications were instinctive reactions rather than thoughtful speech. "You always react like this, but I never really left," Leon said. dispersing the energy tides around him as if teasing the world consciousness's dog head. Every time he crossed back, he returned to the point in time where he had previously left. Without accounting for time acceleration, his time in the biohazard world had actually been longer than in Marvel. 9 years. Evolution, evolution, evolution. The world consciousness insisted, then edged closer again, its tone excited. Evolution again? Leon put a hand on his hip. Evolution was the world's instinct. After the biohazard world fully absorbed the effects of the global evolution years ago, its consciousness had occasionally hinted at wanting to evolve further. Leon had always resisted, given the nature of this world. Evolution usually meant another biological outbreak. Viruses, fungi, things that turned people into the walking dead. Don't even think about evolution via viruses or fungi, Leon said. I'm here to take Jill Valentine and the others to explore other worlds. The world consciousness immediately grew anxious. Here, you good, don't leave, it pleaded, clearly worried that if Leon left with Jill and the others, he might not return. Leon smiled. How could it be so concerned? He was about to reassure it when the consciousness began transmitting again. Merge world, evolve, you become stronger, next door. You're saying there's a neighboring world you can merge with to evolve? Leon asked, surprised. Aren't you afraid you'll be swallowed up by the other world consciousness and lose your identity? Here, you, powerful, success, evolution. The world consciousness made it clear that with Leon present, it believed the merger would be safe. Leon stroked his chin. He thought of the black robe world he had recently taken control of. He'd left an M-body there as an anchor for the world consciousness, but maintaining the link between that M-body and his own consciousness required constant energy. A few M-bodies weren't a big deal, but if the number kept growing, it would become a real drain, not just on energy, but on the strain of splitting his consciousness. Merging worlds could reduce the number of separate anchors he had to maintain. All right, let's try it, he said. You pull the neighboring world over, and I'll help with the merger. The world consciousness brightened instantly, though it warned the process would take some time. I'll wait here for your news, Leon told it. He sent out an M-body to represent the biohazard world and then descended toward Earth. The world consciousness blinked at the M-body's new form. Its partner had changed and brought something new into the world. Leon arrived on the long unvisited biohazard Earth. 9 years had passed since the end of the worst of the crisis. Back then, the planet had been divided among 3 powers: Rabbit Country, the Seville Republic, and various European forces. Now, those borders had blurred. The largest administrative body was no longer any single old government, but the international alliance Leon had founded. Part of the reason was the global evolution. The line between races had been broken as many people gained superhuman abilities. More practically, survivors from Rabbit Country had come to dominate the population, about 80%, totaling roughly 900 million. Over 9 years, Rabbit Country survivors had spread across the globe. They were efficient, organized, and fond of governance. A year of that migration had turned much of the administrative backbone of the Seville Republic into Rabbit Country people. A year ago, Jill Valentine and Ada Wong had finally retired from their consecutive terms. From the start, they had taken on important roles to steady the world after the apocalypse. Now they planned to leave with Leon to look for little Sherry. But Leon hesitated. Not this time, he told them. It was night at the mansion in Raccoon City. Leon was handing out wages to Jill and Ada. Ada, overwhelmed by the lump sum payment, seemed to be suffering from both physical and mental stress. She propped herself up with trembling hands, blinking blearily at Leon. What? You found better employees over there, and you're afraid we'll take their jobs? She drawled in her usual lazy voice, sounding like a sleepy Devon Rex. Jill, who had already accepted her full pay, rested her chin on her hands and asked directly and politely, It's been a year, Leon. Last time you were in a state of change and couldn't take us. Is it still not possible this time? This time it isn't because of me, Leon said while finishing the payroll. It's the world consciousness. It's preparing to integrate another world to promote its evolution. The news made Jill sit up straighter despite her weakness. She slipped back, moonlight catching her face. When will it start? There's still some time. I'll tell you once the world consciousness gives feedback, Leon said, watching Ada carefully. He could feel the tension radiating off Ada. Her anxiety passed to him. To calm her, he sped up the distribution. As Ada received her pay, a visible relief passed through her. Her muscles loosened, then tightened with the joy of being reassured. Leon helped Jill sit up. There won't be any accidents. I'll be watching. You two need only stay to guide others and keep things steady. Don't let anyone panic. Jill nodded, then hesitated. My wages have been distributed, right? Maybe double-check the accounts. Ada's worked more overtime. Give it to her instead. What are you talking about? Everyone gets their share equally, Leon replied. The next day, Leon left the biohazard world again. He would return when the world consciousness began the merger. Chapter 493, Naruto World. So, it's Naruto this time. Leon looked up at the blue sky and drifting clouds. Hands in his pockets, he stared toward the distant mountain wall where the carved faces of the Hokage watched over the village. Below him, not far off, the gate of the Ninja Academy stood busy. Naruto Uzumaki sat alone on a swing, scraping circles into the dirt with the tip of his shoe. Parents called for their children and carried them away in a steady stream, close enough to touch, yet somehow from another world entirely. Leon quickly adapted to the Japanese anime style as if it were second nature. Oh my, appearing next to the protagonist again. The odds of showing up in front of the main character must be ridiculously high. As for this world, I'll study the Otsutsuki bloodline and the divine tree fruit before I leave, and the M-body. He launched another M-body, sending it soaring into space to begin merging with the universe. When he looked back, Naruto had climbed down from the swing and was walking out of the schoolyard with his head down, dejected. A few parents nearby were whispering with satisfaction that the fox demon had failed the graduation exam. It's graduation time at the Ninja Academy. Right at the start. Leon rubbed his chin. I actually like Naruto Uzumaki. Watching him get stomped inspires a strange sort of admiration, though my power is higher than his now, so never mind. Next, Mizuki will trick Naruto into stealing the scroll of seals. I should go take a look at that scroll. Leon had no particular intention of tailing Naruto. Wearing an expression of casual invincibility, he strolled toward the Hokage's office. Normally, an outsider suddenly appearing in Konoha would draw the attention of the Ambu, who would immediately begin tracking. But from the moment he arrived until he walked right into the office, no one seemed to notice anything odd. He pushed open the door, approached Hiruzen Sarutobi's desk, and watched the old man peering into a crystal ball that showed a bathhouse scene. All day long, you only know how to spy on pretty women, Hiruzen Sarutobi. You'll regret that. Leon muttered at the cloudy image. Hiruzen froze, and then, without thinking, blurted, Danzo, I am the Hokage! He covered the crystal ball with a cloth and glanced around. Didn't Danzo just say something? He looked distracted, not seeing Leon standing before him at all. Strange. Maybe Danzo came asking about Naruto the other day and I'm still annoyed about it, the old man mumbled. He summoned Ambu to check if anyone had entered the office. When they confirmed no one had, he unveiled the crystal ball again and chuckled, puffing at his pipe. Leon watched, unimpressed, and quietly made a note of the peeping technique, telescope jutsu. The scroll of seals was in another room. After realizing this was the Naruto world, Leon had deliberately dampened his presence with a biofield. Once his presence was weakened enough, even standing directly in front of someone made him difficult to detect. He slipped into a room full of scrolls, pulled the sealed scroll of seals from a wooden cabinet, and opened it. No sealing jutsu, hidden wards, or teleportation triggers activated. Leon lingered in the Hokage's inner office as if he had every right to be there, and started reading the forbidden techniques of Konoha out loud to himself. Shadow Clone Technique, Impure World Reincarnation, 8 Gates Released Formation, Rasengan, Fire Release, Water Release, Wood Release. With a single glance, he memorized the jutsu and the complex sequences required to perform them. But I still need chakra, so I'll have to study that. He put the scroll back in the cabinet and stepped out into the main office. Hiruzen was no longer enchanted by the crystal ball. He was biting his pipe and reviewing a pile of academy graduation files. Leon didn't try to interrupt. He simply stood, watching the chakra coursing through Hiruzen's meridians with his enhanced vision. The number of ninja cells is roughly 3 times that of Earthlings, he observed to himself. Chakra is a blend of spiritual and physical energy, but it still needs a seed. Casually, Leon nicked Hiruzen's wrist, drew a drop of blood, and sealed the wound as if nothing had happened. Hiruzen yelped, then looked down and saw nothing. A mosquito? He wondered aloud. Leon examined Hiruzen's cells and genetic structure carefully. Then he moved on, collecting blood from the Anbu guarding the Hokage's office. His collection radius widened over the night. Might Guy, Kakashi Hake, Kurenai Yuhi, Uchiha Sasuke, Hiyashi Hyuga. Anyone notable in Konoha found a little of their blood sampled by the mysterious intruder. The deeper Leon's analysis went, the more he understood the Otsutsuki gene and the essence of chakra, the divine tree fruit's power. The rules of this world are fascinating, he mused, looking up as dusk fell and night spread like a curtain. Walking Konoha's streets with a blood-red energy orb coagulating in his hand, Leon finally succeeded in creating a chakra seed. Chakra mixes the power of the soul with the body, he concluded. That's why emotions can affect a shinobi's strength so strongly, why an emotional outburst can boost power, and why the bloodline, the genes you're born with, sets a limit on what you can become. He glanced at the bright moon. It's getting late. Time to move on. Huh? Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto was moving stealthily across the roofs of the residential district. Is he going to steal the scroll of seals? Leon raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. He has Asura's chakra inside him, perfect for study. Before Naruto knew what happened, Leon flicked into view in front of him. The sudden appearance felt like running into a wall. Naruto cried out and tumbled to the roof tiles. When he looked up, he saw an adult with black hair and black eyes, a stranger who bore a faint resemblance to the haughty Uchiha. Who are you? Why are you out so late? Naruto stammered, flustered. He'd planned to steal the scroll of seals and didn't want to be discovered before he acted. Heh, what are you doing here? That's exactly what I was asking myself, Leon said, smiling as he crouched down. So, are you going to steal the scroll of seals? Naruto blinked, stunned into silence. He had no intention of being coy. Yes, he admitted. Leon wasn't surprised at all. That thing's something you have to steal? Listen, brat, following that Mizuki-sensei will get you nowhere if you want to graduate. He crooked a finger. Do you want to graduate? Become a Chunin, a Jonin, even the Hokage? Then come with me. In the next instant, his figure blurred and reappeared on the roof of another house. Naruto watched, wide-eyed, then his face lit up. So amazing! Can you really make me Hokage? Leon didn't answer. He only turned and started running out of Konoha. Hey, wait for me, Naruto yelled, scrambling to follow. Chapter 494. You regret my shadow. Lion leapt across the rooftops, no longer hiding. Naruto scrambled after him, shouting, Wait for me. They landed in a residential quarter in the southeast corner of Konoha, downstream from the Naka River, near the Naka Shrine and the Uchiha clan compound. As soon as Naruto stepped off the eaves, he shivered. This place looks like a haunted house, big brother. Why did you bring me here? The houses around them were empty, swallowed by a heavy silence that even the bright moon couldn't banish. Naruto's bravado faltered. Even an Inuzuka ninja dog would have felt something was wrong. Lion stopped and looked back at him. Calling it a haunted house is a bit much. People live here, Naruto. He cocked his head. Huh? You mean this is your house? Naruto relaxed when Lion sounded casual and started staring around foolishly. But it's so spooky. Aren't you afraid things will come out at night if you live here? This isn't my house, Lion began, but he didn't finish. He turned his head and peered into the darkened lane. Naruto followed his gaze but could see nothing. Then a wooden door creaked and the sound sliced through the silence. Is it a ghost? There's a ghost! Naruto cried, goosebumps rising, and ducked behind Lion, clutching his sleeve. The echo of wooden clogs came closer. A boy with black hair and a dark shirt stepped into the moonlight, his expression cold. A ghost, huh? Arrogant Sasuke? What are you doing here? Naruto blurted. Sasuke had his hands in his pockets and looked at them icily. What are you doing here? Naruto and Sasuke locked eyes with instant hostility. Naruto was about to rush at him when Lion grabbed his collar. Relax. I brought Naruto to show him how to become Hokage and how to get stronger. Sorry for the intrusion. Lion ruffled Naruto's hair with a smug grin. The two rookie ninjas froze. Hokage? Big brother, tell me how to become Hokage, Naruto gabbled. You said you wanted to get stronger? Lion didn't bother to look up. Of course, because Naruto began to boast, but Lion's gaze cut across him. In an instant, Naruto's world tilted. He went quiet and then went rigid, falling into a genjutsu. His eyes glazed over, dazed and confused. What is this, genjutsu? Sasuke snapped, leaping to his feet. A kind of genjutsu, Leon said. It wasn't ordinary ninjutsu. He'd woven a technique rooted in soul and spiritual principles. The illusion felt as real as reality. Inside it, Naruto experienced an entire alternate life from its beginning. Lion had adopted him as a child and patiently taught him what it meant to be a true Hokage. Lion's lessons ran far beyond combat. He explained ideology, production relations, and the economic system of the shinobi world. Everything he thought a leader of the village needed to know. Naruto drank it all in. His understanding grew, and with it, his strength. Outside the illusion, Lion studied the chakra he had drawn from Naruto, probing and analyzing. He discovered multiple currents within the young man's chakra, the Nine Tails chakra, and a separate current belonging to Asura. Lion carefully isolated Asura's chakra and began to trace the faint residues left by previous reincarnations. From those faint echoes, Lion reverse-engineered a staggering array of abilities: chakra nature transformations, wood-release bloodline traits, a senju constitution, the signs of sage mode, yang release, even the patterns that form truth-seeking orbs. He could perceive the yin-yang principles that allowed creation. Otsutsuki genes were unlike any he'd studied before, but they were rich with new possibilities. For Lion, diversity in genetic material was as valuable as raw power. After dissecting the mysteries hidden within Asura's chakra, he sorted and reshaped them, erasing the lingering wills of past lives so they wouldn't resurface. Then he reintegrated the refined chakra back into Naruto, feeding the improvements directly into the boy's body and spirit. Chapter 495, Naruto and Sasuke's Fantasy Journey. After the chakra entered Naruto's body, it quickly dispersed through every meridian and began to fuse with his own. It was obvious that in a few years Naruto's chakra would be fully assimilated and he would automatically acquire the Senju body. Lion, however, was not satisfied. This is taking too long. Let's use Naruto to test something I just developed. He clapped once, stood, and pressed a finger to Naruto's forehead. With micro-manipulation of chakra and genes, Lion began to alter Naruto's DNA using the dispersed Asura chakra. Chakra is a blend of physical and spiritual energy, so manipulating genes through it was almost effortless. In seconds, Lion reshaped Naruto into a Senju body. Then, he added the features he'd researched: the wood-release bloodline, yang release, Otsutsuki bloodline purification. Within a few breaths, Naruto's physique and bloodline matched Asura's from 1,000 years ago. At the same time, Lion wove an illusion. He accompanied Naruto's growth from age 3, the Chunin exams, the pain arc, the infinite Tsukuyomi. Every time he added an ability to Naruto's body, he guided Naruto in the illusion on how to use it. He also taught him all the ninjutsu he'd gleaned from the Scroll of Seals, though much of it Naruto could not master. Finally, the illusion ended with Naruto utterly defeated by Otsutsuki Kaguya and helpless as Lion was impaled through the chest and died. It was Lion's black humor. He enjoyed tragic, dark fare. He had deliberately powered Kaguya up for the finale, much like the way he parted with Alex, the protagonist of Prototype. "Brother Lion!" The illusion shattered. Naruto snapped awake, sobbing uncontrollably, tears of despair and guilt pouring down his cheeks. No, why? Why didn't I take my training seriously, Data Bio? Why didn't I reconcile with Kurama? Why didn't I learn truth-seeking balls? It would have been different. He dropped to his knees, clinging to the memory. He hadn't noticed he'd returned to his 12-year-old form. The Hashirama-style Sage Mode Leon had taught him appeared instinctively, green markings lining his eyelids. Otsutsuki Kaguya, I won't forgive you. Naruto stamped the ground and leapt up, smashing the earth. Midair he clapped his hands. Sage art would release true 100 hands. He froze, hovering a moment, then slowly descended. When he landed, he flipped and crouched, looking up to see Lion standing before him, arms folded, smiling satisfied. Beside Lion stood Sasuke, who looked like he'd seen a ghost. Huh, weren't we just... Brother Lion, weren't you? Naruto gaped. Lion shrugged. I told you back when you were 3 that it was an illusion, remember? An illusion. Naruto blinked, the memory snapping into place. He'd been returned to age 3 and adopted by Lion. Who would remember something from so long ago? Databayo? He shouted with his eyes squeezed shut. What level of genjutsu could be that realistic? What's going on, Databayo? After more than 10 years of training inside the illusion, Naruto's knowledge had grown, but he'd never encountered such a powerful genjutsu. Lion stroked his chin. If you don't believe me, let Sasuke prove it. Sasuke, you want to get stronger, right? Sasuke had been rattled by the pressure Naruto exuded. When his name was called, he straightened and answered with rare fervor. Yes, I want to be stronger. Teach me. Pride should have made him demand it, but the oppressive weight of Naruto's sage mode made something like awe surface. Teach me to be strong enough to kill that man. Very well. Lion rested a finger on Sasuke's forehead and activated the illusion for him. He began to study the Indra chakra in Sasuke's body, the 6 paths level Sharingan from Indra, the Manjikyo Sharingan, Otsutsuki elements, the Eternity Manjikyo and Rinnegan imprints from Uchiha Madara. Lion analyzed the chakra's mysteries and transformed Sasuke's physiology. If Sasuke opened his eyes now, he'd have the Indra version 3 Tomoe Sharingan, able to activate the perfect Susanoo. Lion, mischievous as ever, crafted a parallel life for Sasuke within the illusion. The Chunin exams, field training, learning forbidden ninjutsu, avenging the Uchiha by confronting Itachi, the infinite Tsukuyomi, and he pushed the ending even further. Naruto died too. Lion made the illusion cruel on purpose. Sasuke! Naruto! Sasuke snapped awake, shouting to the sky, blood streaming from his eyes as his 3 Tomoe reconfigured into a Manjikyo pattern. A perfect Susanoo erupted around him. The same Hashirama-style sage markings appeared near his eyes. The 200-meter-tall purple Susanoo crushed several houses as Sasuke stared at the sky, searching for Kaguya. He paused, seeing the bright moon and sparse stars, and his expression changed. Then Naruto's annoyed voice came from below. Huh? Sasuke's even stronger than the one in the illusion. That's not fair, Brother Lion. Sasuke looked down and saw the two who, according to the illusion, should have died. He fell silent. The towering Susanoo dissipated, and Sasuke touched down lightly, fixing Lion and Naruto with a cold glare. So those 10+ years were all an illusion? Lion spread his hands. I made that clear when you were 6, didn't I? Can't you tell the difference either? A faint flush crossed Sasuke's face. He began, then blinked away the embarrassment. Naruto laughed. I knew it. It felt so real, like living another life. Of course, Sasuke couldn't tell either. Sasuke pursed his lips, turned his head, and shoved his hands into his pockets. Idiot, only you would be that obvious. Hey, you were screaming my name just now, wanting to avenge me. You definitely didn't realize it. No one avenges an idiot. You just couldn't tell. Not everybody's you. You are. The two kept bickering like they had spent those illusionary years together. Lion had distributed the wills of Indra and Asura throughout their chakras, and whether in illusion or reality, the bond between them had only strengthened. You two really do get along, Lion sighed. Who gets along with him? Naruto and Sasuke shot back in unison. Lion spread his hands again, amused. Naruto and Sasuke both turned away, grumbling. Just then, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from outside the Uchiha compound. Chapter 496, A Genin Takes Down Konoha Hidden Village. The footsteps were almost soundless, like a breeze. Still, the three of them heard every scrape of sandal against rubble. They looked up. A group of masked shinobi had slipped into the Uchiha compound, moving across the eaves and closing in. Naruto and Sasuke recognized them at once. Root operatives, Naruto said. At 12, his face took on an expression that somehow made him look both solemn and absurd. Sasuke's expression hardened. He didn't wait to ask why they were here. He attacked. He formed hand signs in a blur, and lightning sprang from his body. Bluish-purple currents flowed into the ground and spread across the courtyard. From the earth erupted dozens of lightning spears that tore through the buildings, and the root operatives perched on the roofs. A few survivors leapt up and hung suspended. Less than a second had passed, but Sasuke's assault was like moving water. His Manjekyo glimmered. Amaterasu. Black flames erupted, devouring the remaining attackers until ash fell where they'd been. Sasuke hadn't moved his feet the whole time. Yet in seconds, he had cut down the ninjas surrounding the Uchiha compound. "Hey, Sasuke, this is Danzo's doing. Root has people like Sai and Yamato. You can't just—" Naruto started, frowning. Sasuke gave him a cold look. "Is that so? Then try stopping me." "You think I can't? In my illusion, I beat you at the Valley of the End and dragged you back to Konoha." "What Valley of the End?" Sasuke sneered. "In my illusions, you're always dead last, except when you're useful against Otsutsuki Kaguya." "Huh? Without Big Brother Leon, would I be that weak?" Naruto protested. Sasuke's lip curled. "Even with Leon's help, you're no match for me." He trailed off as he sensed movement and turned his head. "Also, Sai and Yamato aren't with these men." Sasuke gave a brief, dismissive explanation, tapped his toes, leapt to the eaves, and scanned the distance. A squad was racing over, led by Shimura Danzo, flanked by Hiruzen Sarutobi. When Sasuke saw Danzo, a sharp, fierce light flared in his eyes. He hurled a kunai at Danzo, his mangekyo flaring before his eyes rolled into a rinnegan. The kunai struck Danzo's face and was casually deflected. Ameno Tejikara! Sasuke activated his rinnegan ability and swapped places with the kunai. A crackling, bird-like electrical sound filled his hand as a violent Chidori stabbed through Danzo's chest. "What? Uchiha Sasuke!" Voices rang out. "What are you doing? Stop him!" Konoha's shinobi erupted into action and quickly swarmed Sasuke. "Danzo! Uchiha Sasuke! Do you know what you're doing?" Hiruzen shouted, furious. Danzo, casually hurled to the ground by Sasuke, lay bleeding, apparently lifeless. Hiruzen's vision darkened with shock and rage, and he attacked with desperate force. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. The Anbu on site moved to block Sasuke's escape. Only a few Jonin, Hatake Kakashi among them, remained motionless, stunned. Sasuke was still only a freshly graduated genin. That he could wield Chidori and ambush Danzo was unbelievable. Under the heavy cordon, he should have been trapped. Instead, a giant purple skeleton of chakra and ocular power erupted around him. The upper half of the spectral giant intercepted every attack. Thousands of shurikens struck it and failed to leave a mark. "Humph," Sasuke said coldly. "Is this the Konoha he protected even at the cost of destroying his own clan? If you want to dance, come try." His rinnegan glittered with killing intent. In his illusion, he had reconciled with Edo Tensei Itachi Uchiha, but that did not soften his hatred for the old men like Hiruzen and Danzo. Hiruzen's composure returned in an instant. Realizing what was happening, he felt a chill. That brat had awakened a terrifying eye. The Hokage understood with sudden dread that tonight might determine Konoha's fate. He steadied himself and raised his arm. "Everyone, prepare." "Wait, there's been a misunderstanding." Naruto's voice came from above. Sage art, wood release, deep forest emergence. Before anyone could react, rows of trees shot up, branches intertwining into a living net. In a blink, every Konoha shinobi without defenses was bound. Naruto had even taken care to ensnare fingers and use the branches to absorb each ninja's chakra. The elites at the compound, including Hiruzen, found themselves immobilized. "This is wood release? Impossible," some Anbu breathed. "How can that fox demon use wood release?" They stared at Naruto, incredulous. Hiruzen too felt like he was trapped in a genjutsu. Bound in midair, he looked at Naruto, hands clenched together, bewildered. Minutes ago, he'd been awaiting news that Naruto had stolen the Scroll of Seals and learned multi-shadow clone jutsu. Now Naruto had sprung wood release and rendered the village's defenders helpless. "Naruto, is that really you?" Hiruzen's voice trembled. "Of course it's me, third, Grandpa." Naruto nodded, complicated expression on his face, and pointed. "Shimura Danzo is the root of it all. Sasuke's tragedy, Nagato's tragedy. He caused them." "Look closely. He's not dead," someone shouted. They looked and saw. Danzo's corpse had vanished. In its place, a living Danzo dangled from a tree branch overhead, still cursing. "You fox demon brat? Are you betraying Konoha with that Uchiha? Let me down this instant. Do you know who I am?" Whoosh! A flash of lightning cracked through the air. Danzo's head, still in mid-curse, rolled away. Everyone froze. Some ninjas, recovering faster, began to curse Sasuke for his earlier actions. Sasuke, arms folded, stared coldly at Danzo's body. Then, as if some trick of the night, the corpse faded and Danzo reappeared nearby, alive, but immediately bound once more by Naruto's wood release. Now the scene sank into a stunned hush. "Shimura Danzo," Naruto said, pressing the point. "If you don't confess, Sasuke will act again." Danzo's face went black. He spat at Naruto. You little fox brat. Konoha raised you, taught you to be a shinobi, and you help an evil Uchiha. Naruto's jaw tightened at the insult. Before tension could boil over further, another voice cut through, clear and cold. You two have both seen the infinite Tsukuyomi, and yet you still bicker like children. Leon stepped calmly from the trees. I'll help you both. When his gaze fell on Shimura Danzo, the man's composure finally broke. Danzo began to rattle off his sins like a broken record, exposing the dirty deeds he had orchestrated for decades. Hiruzen, shaken, followed with his own half-answers and admissions, confessions of blame he had once placed on Danzo. After that round of revelations, the forest grew as quiet as a graveyard. The shinobi looked at their Hokage and root leader with disbelief. Hatake Kakashi, Anko Mitarashi, and others watched with cold light in their eyes. Danzo fell silent. Hiruzen stared up at the fragmented moonlight filtering through the leaves, his thoughts scattered and heavy. By morning, Hiruzen announced his retirement. Shimura Danzo quietly went to his grave. Chapter 497. Above the moon, hours after Danzo was buried, Leon stood at the entrance to Konoha with Naruto and Sasuke. He folded his arms and asked, "Are you two really coming with me?" Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Aren't you going to find Tsunade?" "Sasuke, aren't you going to look for Itachi?" Naruto waved him off. "Heh, Granny Tsunade can handle herself. Kakashi and the others will sort things out." Sasuke only nodded. "You're right. Hunting down Itachi and rebuilding the Uchiha will take a long time. There's no rush." "Then don't even think about ditching us and trying to stop Black Zetsu's plot alone. Big brother Leon." Naruto clenched his fists, fired up. How could the future 6th Hokage skip protecting the shinobi world? Leon rubbed his cheek and smiled. "Nice speech, but I'm actually planning to free Otsutsuki Kaguya." Naruto and Sasuke froze. "What?" Naruto blurted. "It's because the Kaguya you saw in my illusion was strengthened by me," Leon explained calmly. "If you two fought her now, you might not win, but you wouldn't be crushed either." "What?" they said together. A moment later, the three of them were on the moon. "Whoa, people actually live on the moon?" Naruto lay back with his hands behind his head, taking in the ancient, weathered buildings scattered across the surface. "This is where the descendants of the Sage of Six Paths' younger brother, Otsutsuki Hamura, live?" Leon pointed casually out across the dusty plain. A group of animated puppets approached and disintegrated into ash the instant they neared. A white-haired boy with hollowed-out eye sockets floated forward in shackles. "Intruder, won't you—" He tried to bark, but his words were abruptly muffled, his mouth sealed by an invisible law. "That's Toneri," Leon said, extracting a sample of chakra from the boy and examining it. "He's the last descendant of Otsutsuki Hamura on the moon." After a few seconds of study, Leon placed his palm on Toneri's forehead and channeled a 6-colored divine power through him. He'd brought Hyuga genes from Konoha, using them to repair and complete Toneri's lineage. When the surge faded, the gouged sockets in Toneri's face were whole again. New eyes opened, deep, ocean blue and radiant. "Those eyes are?" Sasuke felt a pressure in his chest. "The ultimate form of the Byakugan, the Tenseigan," Leon said. He let go and also released the seal that had held Toneri. Newly gifted with the Tenseigan, Toneri's power had grown immeasurably, yet he fell strangely quiet. He touched his restored eyes, glanced at Leon with a shaken expression, and followed the trio at a distance. Whatever he sensed about Leon left him reticent. Leon had a clear purpose. After studying Toneri's genes and the colossal Tenseigan embedded deep within the moon, he led them to a plaza and opened a channel in space with a flick of his hand. "Are we really going to release Otsutsuki Kaguya here, big brother Leon?" Naruto asked, half excited, half bewildered. "I could try talking to Kurama again. Ever since I left that illusion, communication's gotten easier. Maybe I'll be able to fully transform into a tailed beast soon." Leon smiled. "Kurama recognizes you as Asura's reincarnation. Your strength is comparable. But you don't need your beast form right now. You and Sasuke just watch." He then tore open a rift. A phantom-like old man materialized beside them. White-robed, 2 horns upon his head, a circle of truth-seeking orbs suspended around him. He reached out to stop Leon. "Young man, please stop. You don't know what you're doing." Naruto and Sasuke blinked. The Sage of Six Paths? It was indeed Otsutsuki Hagoromo, the very same one they'd seen in Leon's illusion. Leon glanced at him. Hagoromo, I thought you'd just watch. Good, you'll help me with my research. Before Hagoromo could react, he suddenly found himself unable to move. Alarmed, the sage struggled as Leon drew a portion of his chakra away and studied it. After a few seconds, Leon returned it and commented, Not bad. Your bloodline is purer than Asura's and the others. From Hagoromo, Leon extracted a pure Otsutsuki lineage and deduced many yin-yang release techniques and ninjutsu. His database of knowledge swelled. When I get back, I can add new spells to the God Realm dimension spells, he muttered, already thinking ahead. Without slowing, Leon opened another spatial passage and, as if pulling on a handle, drew out a pale, white-browed woman. Hagoromo gasped, Mother! He looked stricken, his mother dragged out by her horn-like protrusions like rabbit ears. Otsutsuki Kaguya had been in a deep sleep. Wakefulness left her clouded at first. The first face she focused on was her eldest son, Hagoromo. Hagoromo, she murmured, frowning. Then she noticed the handsome young man beside the intruder, absently playing with her horns. Presumptuous, you... Her words were cut off. Leon sealed her mouth with spatial rules just as he had Teneri. In the shinobi world, imposing another universe's laws felt almost absurd, like trying to execute a current official with a relic weapon from a prior era. Even so, Leon's realm let him enforce some external rules on a very small scale. To use those laws broadly would require forming an illusory universe and clearing the other world's laws first. But for a planetary-level being like Kaguya, Leon could act decisively. Despite the restraint, Leon did not humiliate or harm her beyond what he needed. He took a small sample of her blood and analyzed it. After a brief study, he had mastered all of Kaguya's bloodline abilities. As for ninjutsu secrets, there weren't any. Everything Kaguya knew came from her lineage. All right, thank you for your cooperation, Leon said, then released the restraints on mother and son. They stood staring at him. One was the dutiful son who had sealed his mother a millennium ago, the other the lonely, embittered child who had spent 1,000 years on the moon. For a long moment, neither dared to speak, only watching Leon and wondering what else he might do. Naruto, oblivious, laughed. Wow, Otsutsuki Kaguya really doesn't seem as scary as in the illusion. Big brother Leon actually made her stronger. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Idiot. Even without being strengthened, you still couldn't beat her. Well, still. If Granny Otsutsuki doesn't want to destroy the shinobi world, she actually seems kind of benevolent, right? Naruto grinned, completely missing the small hash-shaped mark that had begun to form on Kaguya's forehead. Hagoromo chuckled softly beside them. He could not explain that the unlucky young man stood before them was the reincarnation of his grandson. Naruto's calling her Granny seemed reasonable enough to him. Kaguya had no leisure to care about Naruto's familiarity. Her attention fixed on Leon when he said, Next, let's pull Otsutsuki Ishiki and Urashiki over for a look. Cold sweat broke out across Kaguya's back. When Leon opened 2 portals and hauled Jigen, who carried Otsutsuki Ishiki's karma, and the Otsutsuki Urashiki, who had come from the future, into the clearing, Kaguya, who had been watching from the side, nearly fainted. Before either of them could speak, Leon froze them in midair. Only then did Kaguya let out a trembling sigh of relief. She stared at him with even greater deference, but Leon was already in the middle of genetic research. He activated his supervision and studied them methodically. After scanning Urashiki, he turned his attention to the imprint of Ishiki sealed within Jigen's karma. Although Otsutsuki Ishiki ranks a step above Kaguya, their genes aren't that different, Leon murmured, stroking his chin. No need to study the rest of the Otsutsuki. He snapped his fingers. Jigen and Urashiki crumbled into ash and dispersed on the wind. Kaguya, who had been whispering to the Sage of Six Paths about the Otsutsuki and the threat they posed, went weak at the knees. She dropped to her knees, her long hair spilling across the ground, her pale eyes fixed on Leon in terror. Her lips trembled. She tried to cry out, Don't harm them, there, but fear choked her words. The Sage of Six Paths followed her example and fell to his knees as well. Young man? No, Leon? My lord Leon. It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding, he cried. He had heard Naruto call Leon Big Brother earlier and recognized the name. Though he had sealed his own mother for over 1,000 years, he had never intended to kill her. Kaguya's explanations had convinced him much of what she had done had been out of necessity. "What misunderstanding?" Leon asked, raising an eyebrow. "My mother is different from those Otsutsuki," the sage blurted. "She never intended to destroy the shinobi world. Everything she did was to resist our clan." "Is that so?" Leon said, then opened another spatial portal and produced a pitch-black lump of living matter. He tossed it to the ground. It rolled and lay still, playing dead, until Kaguya whispered, "Black Zetsu?" The thing sprouted eyes and a mouth and leapt toward Kaguya. Mother, you've broken free? That's great. This way I won't have to gather the 10 tails and destroy the world too." Kaguya slapped it flat, then pinned it under 2 black rods. "I do not know this creature," she said to Leon, covering her face with a sleeve and averting her eyes. Leon's mouth twitched. Black Zetsu was pitiful in the extreme. He didn't bother to intervene further. Killing Ishiki and Urashiki had been incidental. What he really wanted to study was the 10 tails, the God Tree. He opened 8 more portals in quick succession and reached into each. From the Jinchuriki on the other side, he drew a portion of chakra, 1 tail's worth from each of the 1 tails through the 8 tails. Nearby, Naruto, quick as ever, bargained with the 9 tails inside him. The 9 tails had been watching the world and could not refuse. It severed one of its tails and handed it over. Leon had now gathered chakra from all 9-tailed beasts. With his profound knowledge of ninjutsu and chakra, Leon combined the 9 distinct energies with yin-yang release. The beast chakra swelled and took form, coalescing into newborn, full-bodied versions of the tailed beasts. They were fresh and instinctive, their minds still infantile. Kaguya, alarmed, summoned the Gedo statue. Leon stuffed the 9-tailed beasts into its hollow and used yin-yang release to fuse them. The statue stirred, reconstituted itself, and reformed into the 10 tails. "If I remember right," Leon said, "to turn the 10 tails into a god tree, you need an Otsutsuki sacrifice." He turned to Kaguya. Her face went ashen. She bit her lip and nodded. She was the only pure-blooded Otsutsuki present. Kaguya understood she was doomed. Leon, however, simply turned away. "When I made life from nothing before, I used the power of the world," he said. "This time I'll try it with yin-yang release." He began to craft life by hand, yin release to shape form, yang release to give life. Between those forces, he fashioned a newborn Otsutsuki, pale skin, wooden great horns, Byakugan eyes, a perfect pure blood in appearance. Then he hurled it at the 10 tails. The 10 tails bit and swallowed instinctively. Its body convulsed and began to transform. Arms and tail thickened into colossal roots. Roots extended and spread until they sank deep into the surface of the moon, anchoring the creature. Its head broadened and flared into a vast crown. The 10 tails completed its change into a towering, grotesque god tree. The god tree had few branches, a single massive trunk thrusting skyward, roots wrapping and embedding into the moon. Except for Kaguya, everyone watched in awe. "Is this the original form of the god tree?" someone whispered. "Big brother Leon, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to cast infinite Tsukuyomi, are you?" Naruto asked, half joking. "Of course not," Leon replied. "I want to study the chakra fruit." Kaguya hesitated, then spoke up despite her terror. "To bear a chakra fruit, the god tree must absorb enough energy. This rock that sealed it, this moon, doesn't have nearly enough." "Of course the moon's energy isn't enough," Leon said, taking it for granted. He rested his hand on the trunk. Life energy converted into chakra surged outward. "I'll supply the energy myself." Leon now stood on a level of power comparable to the beast god Zeus had once reached. To ordinary beings, even his cast-off rinse would be priceless. A single drop of his blood could snuff out a star. A single strand of his hair could rend a galaxy. The energy needed to power a god tree was nothing to him, mere flickers of light in a sunrise. Chapter 499, Leaving Naruto. A massive torrent of energy poured into the god tree like 100 rivers rushing into the sea. The tree quickly showed signs of oversaturation. Cracks spidered across its trunk. "The energy is too much. The god tree can't handle it," Otsutsuki Kaguya murmured. "Normally, it takes thousands of years for the god tree to bear fruit," she explained softly. "Thousands of years? That's easy," Leon said, raising an eyebrow. He throttled back the raw energy output and instead accelerated time around the god tree. After a few breaths, the trunk trembled. Petals at the crown unfurled. a glowing fruit formed. Leon flew to the top, plucked it, and the god tree withered. He hovered for a moment, then bit into the fruit and swallowed it. Everyone else hovered in the air, watching. Otsutsuki Kaguya stared in astonishment at the miracle. Naruto's eyes shone with anticipation. It bore fruit just like that? Big brother Leon, what did it taste like? Leon considered for a moment. The fruit transformed into pure chakra as it entered him, attempting to optimize his genes and alter his life form. In full effect, it would have turned him into a humanoid 10 tails, granting immortality, free manipulation of natural energy, and awakening the Kekai Mora. But the fruit's power was far too weak to do all that. It was absorbed by his cells with barely a ripple. Still, the process revealed the fruit's essence to him. It was okay, Leon said. Want to try one? Naruto scratched his head. I do, but the god tree's withered, and the 10 tails is gone, right? Leon made it look effortless. He manipulated matter and energy in his palm, condensing them into an intricate structure. After a few breaths, 2 shimmering god tree fruits materialized as if conjured from thin air. Here, if you want them, eat. He tossed the fruits to Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto squealed, eyes bright. Big brother Leon, you're amazing. Sasuke took his fruit and nodded in thanks. Under the stunned gazes of Kaguya and Hagoromo, the 2 kids, one about 1.40 m tall, devoured the precious fruits in a few hurried gulps. Shock, envy, jealousy, sorrow, and helplessness swelled in the hearts of Kaguya and Hagoromo as the boys' auras surged. Sasuke's forehead bloomed with a rinnegan ringed by 9 tomoe. Beside Naruto, black truth-seeking orbs coalesced. The 2 Otsutsuki watched, powerless and envious. So that's the taste of the god tree fruit. Kurama's trembling in his seal, Naruto muttered. Sasuke touched the tomoe rinnegan on his own brow and shot Naruto an incredulous look. With Naruto's chakra now greater than Kurama's and Sasuke bearing the tomoe rinnegan, it was no wonder Kurama felt intimidated. Leon, where are we going next? Sasuke asked. You gave us those fruits. There must be enemies stronger than Kaguya. You need Naruto and me to fight, right? Sasuke's reasoning was sharper than Naruto's. Kaguya paled and quickly protested that she wasn't an enemy. Leon smiled. I do need you 2 for things, but not right now. For now, take me around the shinobi world, Naruto said. Months passed. Leon's main body experienced the customs and people of the shinobi world, while his M-body, his mobile body, kept integrating into one parallel universe after another. The Naruto universe was rich with parallel worlds, much to Leon's delight. He slipped into each alternate world, expanding his influence. If an Otsutsuki territory stood in the way, he conveniently eliminated it to strengthen himself. One day, while moving through high-dimensional space, a presence stopped him. So it's you who's slaughtering my Otsutsuki, a voice said. Otsutsuki Shibai, the Otsutsuki god who had long abandoned his physical form, attacked. He wore vast V-shaped horns and wielded immense power, reality-bending thought shapes, illusion manifesting as truth, and the ability to reflect any killing intent aimed at him back as real damage. In the Naruto world, he was a supreme high-dimensional deity. Today, for the sake of his clan, he struck at Leon. Oh, an Otsutsuki god who transcends dimensions. I'll study him, Leon said. His M-body's massive hand seized Otsutsuki Shibai and refined him in an instant. The god didn't have time to threaten further. His existence as a background deity ended, and Leon moved on. That ability to reflect killing intent is interesting, Leon noted. I'll refine and incorporate it. Before he knew it, more months had gone by. Leon's M-body had occupied every parallel world in the Naruto universe. Meanwhile, Leon's main body watched the world he'd influenced take shape. Naruto, armed with the will of fire, Leon had taught him, unified the shinobi world. Sasuke found Itachi, cured his bloodline ailment, and sent him to live in the entertainment district where he could rebuild his life. The world grew steadier. Finally, Leon was ready to leave. On the Hokage Rock in Konoha, 3 figures stood silhouetted against the setting sun. Big brother Leon, are you really leaving alone? Can't you stay, Dadabayo? Naruto pleaded. People have to part, Leon said, hands clasped behind his back. If not today, then tomorrow. Sasuke's eyes flickered. Leon, Naruto has already unified the shinobi world. He can bring peace. My parents were resurrected by me, Sasuke continued, and with Itachi around, I don't have to worry about the Uchiha's future. If the place you're going needs my strength, let me come. Leon was caught off guard by Sasuke's sudden sentimentality. Naruto, too, leapt up. "Sasuke, you sly. Are you going to leave me behind? I want to go too." Sasuke folded his arms. "Boring. You can't just abandon the newly unified shinobi world." Naruto groped for an answer, hair in his hands, unable to decide. Leon regarded the two like children and found them amusing. "When the shinobi world truly no longer needs you, come find me," he said. "How will we find you?" Naruto blurted. Leon smiled. "Your universe has many parallel worlds. Go help the other worlds. When you've brought justice and order to them all, I'll be waiting for you at the end of the world." Two allies secured. Of course, Leon had given them the God Tree fruits in part for this day. "Oh, and one last thing. Take this gift. Use it carefully." Leon activated his transcending ability and vanished from the Naruto world. Naruto and Sasuke stood staring at their shadows in the sunset until both noticed a faint glow in their hands. "This is—" Naruto looked down at the staff of courage that had appeared in his palm. Sasuke spread his arms and found a pair of miraculous wings unfolding along his back. Thus, in the Naruto universe, two strange ninjas set off across parallel worlds to uphold justice and bring order. Chapter 500, World Fusion. After discovering the strange ability called Killing Intent Rebound from Otsutsuki Shibai, Lion felt a peculiar, almost perverse satisfaction. He left the Fire World and continued his voyage through the many worlds. The integration of Doomsday's genes was already about halfway finished. Once the fusion completed, this leg of his journey would be paused. His next stop after the Fire World was the Pirate World. He arrived precisely in the midst of the Summit War. Materializing in the center of the chaos, Lion glanced around with cold disdain and declared to everyone present that they were trash. Short-tempered pirates and marines began dropping like flies. He had only slightly enhanced Killing Intent Rebound, the ability that, back with Otsutsuki Shibai, reflected killing intent aimed at its wielder as damage. Previously, it required physical contact with the source of the intent. Lion's tweak turned it into a passive that no longer needed touch. Anyone who harbored ill will toward him would immediately receive true damage in return. So when he appeared and sneered, half of the Summit War participants died instantly. From a distance, it might have looked like words becoming reality. Call someone trash, and they rot away. In truth, all the deaths were the rebound at work. Blackbeard squared, eyes widened, and they simply burst into blood. Those that survived were mostly crippled. Admiral Kizaru, mid-light speed kick, merely frowned at the taunt and was flung backwards from the sky, plunging into the sea where he never resurfaced. Simple, hot-blooded fighters like Luffy ended up among the winners. After Lion left, anyone still standing could count themselves lucky. After ending the Summit War with a single sentence and incidentally collecting genes and devil fruits, Lion wandered on. He strolled through Mary Geoise, walked the main avenue, and slipped into the palace. He did nothing, didn't wave a sleeve, didn't steal a cloud, and yet when he left with his hands in his pockets, the setting sun behind him was stained crimson by the blood on the ground. Having finished his pirate detour with a pile of fruits and a few sea kings to his name, Lion moved on to the God of Death world. He kept a lower profile there and turned down the intensity of Killing Intent Rebound. Even so, figures like Aizen and Iwa collapsed at the merest frown, frowned at Lion, not the other way around. Lion, growing bored, weakened the rebound further, returned the last Zanpakuto Ryujin Jaka to a barely breathing old man Yamamoto, healed him casually, and walked away. That day, the whole Seirete was lit with lanterns and banners. Music filled the air. They declared an annual God of Death Day to mark Lion's departure. How did Lion know? His M-body was still drifting through the God of Death universe, watching everything. "Humph, you're happy I'm gone? Killing Intent Rebound, activate." "Ah, ah, ah!" Didn't the unnamed one leave? Why is it still rebounding? The Seirete kept the festival, but not as a celebration of his leaving. It was a warning. There was one who could not be named, and that one was always watching. Lion kept traversing worlds, but this time he stopped mid-road. Through his M-body in the biohazard world, he detected something unexpected. World fusion had begun. How could the world consciousness be so reckless as to start a fusion without approval? Lion locked onto the biohazard world and returned at once. When he appeared in the Raccoon City mansion, the sky showed the scenery of another world like a mirage: skyscrapers, towering ranges, a vast blue ocean. It was basically another Earth hanging there overhead. Lion watched the phenomenon, and across his Earth, humanity lifted their eyes. 6 months earlier, Jill Valentine, former vice chairman of the International Union, long retired, had reappeared to announce that the worlds would enter a new phase of evolution. For half a year, everyone had waited for this day. Seeing the other Earth looming in the sky, over 1 billion superhumans clenched their fists, eager to test themselves. Leon S. Kennedy, chairman of the Civil Republic and nicknamed Three Lights, even gave a public speech, pledging to follow the world consciousness, and founding Chairman Lion Stark to protect every citizen during the fusion. Ada, Lion said without taking his gaze off the sky, as Ada Wong stepped out beside him, this fusion won't be perfectly smooth. Ada, in a red knit sweater, looked at his profile. How bad? Not catastrophic, but the world consciousness was overeager. 30 seconds earlier, the world consciousness had been screaming through his M-body. Out of control. Collision. Lion. Save! Save! It had pulled the neighboring universe too forcefully, causing the opposite universe to collide. Lion had intervened through the M-body, slowing the contact speed before a full impact occurred. Now, the two worlds were officially starting to fuse. Lion's real work was just beginning. At the edge of the biohazard world, where abstract concepts could interact, Lion reached out and slapped the world consciousness aside. Ever since he left his M-body, the world consciousness had clung to him like a pet, eager for credit, clumsy in its gratitude. This time, its overzealousness had nearly caused a collision. The fusion demanded multidimensional coordination of space, reality, matter, and myriad rules. Even with Lion's current strength, he needed to be meticulous. His main body on Earth stayed still as he watched the sky and spoke little. At the unseen boundary between worlds, the edges blurred. Rules began to intersect, then merge, realities entwined. Lion sifted incoming data about the opposite world and raised a brow. It's actually this world, he said. He turned to Ada. Once the fusion progresses, similar entities from the two universes may overlap or even merge. We're prepared on our side, she replied, but the other Earth might panic. Take a team, Lion said. Represent our Earth. Go and communicate with them.